When I was most helpless, my fiancée Diana pushed me into the abyss with her own hands. For another man, she falsely accused me of rape and sent me to prison. 3 years later, with the help of lawyer Lee and reporters, I was finally cleared of the charges and released without charge. However, there is a bigger secret behind the injustice. I discovered from Michael's hypocrisy that my mother, who was thought to have died in childbirth, is still alive. The lifesaver I once knew turned out to be a carefully woven lie. A paternity test revealed everything. This secret will change the trajectory of my life and determine my future destiny. I have only one goal in my heart: revenge. I vow to make the woman who betrayed me pay for what she did. I will complete my grandmother's unfinished wish, reveal all the truth, and make sure those hiding in the darkness can never escape. Chapter 52. Michael was beaten to a pulp by the Liu family bodyguards. Michael glared at the bodyguard behind him and shouted angrily, "If you dare to kick me, I will ask Diana to fire you." He turned and shouted in the direction Diana left. Diana, your bodyguard kicked me." The guests in the villa began to laugh. Boss Liu's son-in-law is really useless. What does Boss Liu like about him? I don't want such a man. Yes, Johnson is a real man, but Mr. Liu likes such a loser. Another guest added, "It must be that the Liu family has a strong taste." When Liu Changqing heard these words, his face instantly turned awkward. He couldn't help but walk towards Michael and slap him loudly. "You stinky green tea. You dare to embarrass yourself here. Get out." Michael covered his face. He was used to living in a villa. He couldn't stand going back to his old and dilapidated home. "Boss Liu, can you please not chase me away? I'm Diana's savior. I'm about to take the college entrance examination. Can you let me stay for a while? I promise I won't do it again." Liu Changqing slapped him again without hesitation. "You are too shameless. Today I will let the bodyguards teach you a lesson." He gave the bodyguards a look, and the bodyguards immediately understood and quickly dragged Michael and Amanda to the open space and beat them up. Michael tried his best to protect his face. "Stop hitting me. I will really move out. I will never wrongly accuse Johnson again." The bodyguards had long been dissatisfied with Michael and his sister, as they had been repeatedly humiliated by Michael because of his status as Diana. They had finally waited for this opportunity. So how could they let it go so easily? "You said you don't want to fight? We have tolerated you for a long time. Today we must make you suffer." The bodyguard scolded. Michael cried even harder, and Amanda was soon beaten with a swollen face. After Diana walked for a distance, she found that Michael and Amanda were not following her, so she hurried back and saw the bodyguards beating them. Diana rushed over and pushed the bodyguard away. "What are you doing? Why are you so cruel?" The bodyguard snorted coldly. Boss Liu ordered it. After that, they straightened their clothes and left. Michael burst into tears when he saw Diana. "Diana, it's all your fault. I clearly promised you to protect me, but as soon as you left, we were beaten." "Whoa." Diana looked at him distressfully. "I'm sorry. I will make it up to you later." Michael glared at her in dissatisfaction. "Make up for it? You are not the eldest daughter of the Liu family now, Diana. I have suffered a lot following you. Look at how Johnson bullied me and kicked me out of the villa. Now, I don't even have a place to live." Diana's face darkened, and she obviously didn't know how to respond. Amanda gently pulled Michael and reminded him softly, "Brother, don't really treat Diana as a fool. She just watched the surveillance video, and you still said that." Michael was suddenly stunned. He suddenly realized that he had forgotten the surveillance video again. He muttered to himself that a fool like Diana would definitely believe what he said. He ignored Amanda and continued to cry. As expected, Diana did not ask about the surveillance, but gently comforted him, saying, "Okay, stop crying. It's all my fault. How about this? I contacted my best friend. She is also a rich second generation, lives in a single-family villa, and I asked her to arrange for us to live in her house." Michael wiped his tears. His eyes lit up. "Really?" Diana nodded. "Yeah." Michael felt a little better and said in a coquettish tone, "Does she live with her parents? I don't want to be kicked out again." Diana smiled and patted her chest. "Don't worry. She lives by herself. She is the only one at home besides the servants. Her parents are doing business outside all year round and rarely come back to Jiangdu." Michael finally smiled and said, "Okay, I'll choose the room then. If I can't choose, I won't stay here." Diana quickly comforted him. Okay, I'll listen to you." After that, she picked up her phone and dialed Shui Anjing's number. Diana quickly comforted her. Okay, I'll do as you say." As he said that, he picked up his phone and found Shui Anjing's phone number. After hesitating for a long time, he finally dialed Xue Anjing's number. The person Xue Anjing hates the most is Michael. She feels uncomfortable when she sees his effeminate behavior. Later, Diana sent Johnson to prison, and Xue Anjing talked about Diana for a long time, saying that she was confused. Now, we haven't been in touch for 3 years. Soon, the call was connected. Xue Anjing saw that it was Diana calling and felt a little happy. After all, Diana is her best friend, and she can't play with other girls, mainly because she likes to go to nightclubs while other girls don't like to go to such places. As for traveling, the other girls' families were not as rich as hers, and Xue Anjing liked to go Dutch. So gradually the other girls were unable to play with Xue Anjing. Xue Anjing lay on the sofa in the villa, holding her cell phone tightly with a smile on her face. "Hello, Diana. Why did you suddenly think of contacting me?" Diana hesitated and glanced at Michael. Anjing, can I stay at your house for a while? My dad and I have had a conflict these days." Before Diana finished speaking, Xue Anjing spoke first. "Sure, when can you come over? To be honest, I'm bored living alone in the villa. If you come over, we can have a chat." Diana hesitated. "I'm bringing Michael and Amanda with me. Can they live with me?" She knew that Xue Anjing hated Michael and Amanda, so it would be better to ask in advance, in case when the time comes Xue Anjing doesn't let them into the house. Xue Anjing's face darkened. The person she hated the most was Michael. He was so effeminate, and it was annoying just to look at him. Chapter 53. Diana, I want to tell you the truth about what happened back then. Michael was not full. Diana always wrongly accuses Johnson without reason. Fortunately, Johnson has a good personality. If it were any other rich second generation, he would have found someone to beat her up long ago. "Sorry, the house is full." "What?" Diana's face suddenly turned ugly. "Didn't you just say?" Xue Anjing smiled lightly and interrupted her. "Oh, I forgot to mention that there are relatives at home, and they will be staying here recently." Diana's heart tightened. Only Xue Anjing could help her. If she didn't help, she would have to sleep on the street at night. She hurried away, making sure Michael couldn't hear her, and whispered, "Anjing, I know you don't like Michael, but he is my only support now. I promised him before that I would help him before the college entrance examination, so I asked you for help." Xue Anjing sighed. She was not angry with Diana, but she was more disgusted with Michael. "Diana, you are really too stupid. Do you really believe Michael? He is not who you think he is. I have evidence." "What?" Diana was stunned for a moment. "Michael is not Man Man," Xue Anjing said decisively. She has been at the Zizulan bar every day these days, watching Johnson wearing a mask on the stage. She confirmed that the person under the mask was Man Man, who saved Diana in Fenghuang ancient town that year. "What?" Diana was shocked and incredulous. But this fact was too painful. Diana didn't dare to face it. If Michael wasn't Man Man, wouldn't she be a complete fool? "Impossible, I don't believe it." Michael wouldn't lie. She retorted stubbornly. Xue Anjing was helpless. "You are just too stupid. You already have evidence." Then she suggested, "Live in my villa. I won't allow Michael and Amanda to live here." Diana was a little surprised. Xue Anjing was always stubborn and never gave in easily. She didn't expect that she would compromise this time. "Thank you, Anjing," Diana said gratefully. "It's okay. I'll send you the address of the apartment. It's locked with a combination, and I'll tell you the combination too." Diana breathed a sigh of relief. "You're so nice." Xue Anjing sneered, providing Michael and Amanda with an apartment just to prevent them from running away. Anyway, the apartment was going to be sold. "Okay, let's stop talking now. I'll drive to the bottom of the apartment building and wait for you." She hung up the phone. Diana felt relieved and hurried to tell Michael the good news. "Michael, my best friend has an apartment. You and your sister can live in it." "Apartment?" Michael's face changed. How could he accept living in an apartment when he was used to driving luxury cars? "Didn't we agree on a villa just now? Why has it become an apartment now?" He shook his shoulders and said dissatisfiedly. Diana was a little embarrassed, "But if you don't live in an apartment, you'll have to sleep on the street tonight." Michael thought about it and finally held back. He looked at Diana and said helplessly, "What about you?" Diana was stunned for a moment and suddenly felt irritated. Of course I won't live here. If you don't want to live here, then find a place to live by yourself." Michael quickly softened his tone. "Diana, don't be angry. I just feel that Johnson has been bullying me, so I'm in a bad mood. Let's live in an apartment." Diana smiled bitterly. "Let's go." The three of them soon arrived at the downstairs of the apartment building. Michael had a gloomy face all the way. After all, he was used to luxury cars, and taking the bus made him uncomfortable. They arrived at the door of room 5002. Diana entered the password, and the door opened gently. The room is a duplex, luxuriously decorated, with a suspended ceiling and orange-yellow light creating a warm atmosphere. Amanda didn't react, but Michael was still in a bad mood. Although he didn't say it, his anger was at its limit. "If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first," Diana said, preparing to leave. Michael quickly stopped her. "Diana, can you give me some living expenses? My sister, and I don't have much money." Diana gritted her teeth, took out the remaining 200 yuan, and handed it to him. "Take it, don't bother me anymore." She turned and left. Michael looked at her back and snorted coldly. "Diana, when you come back to beg me, I will let you know what is unattainable." Chapter 54. Redmi phone blocks fruit knife. Replaces with trifold. After I left Fong's house, I headed straight for the hotel. It was late at night, and the streets were empty. When I was almost at the hotel, I suddenly heard a girl yelling, "Don't touch me." I frowned, wondering how come I always see a hero saving a beautiful girl. I planned to take a detour, but I saw 7 or 8 men surrounding a girl, with a white van parked next to them. "Never mind. I'll just go over there because I feel guilty about it." "Stop it," I yelled. Wu Shixiang was pulling Fong Jia, and when he heard my voice, he turned around and saw me, frowning. He suddenly remembered who I was, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. "It's you. I've been looking for you. I didn't expect you to come to me on your own initiative." He waved his hand and called a few brothers around him. "Kill him for me." Several people exchanged glances and walked towards me. I didn't retreat. My wrist was slightly itchy. I hadn't fought for a long time. They swung their fists at me, but I dodged them easily and took the opportunity to kick a few of them. They used too much force and held their stomachs, breathing rapidly. Wu Shixiang's face changed slightly. It was obvious that these people were vulnerable. He showed a ferocious smile, took out a fruit knife from his waist, and ran straight towards me. Seeing this, Fong Jia shouted, "Be careful." I used my Redmi phone to block the fruit knife, and the blade got stuck in the phone. Wu Shixiang was stunned, not expecting that I would not dodge. Just when he was stunned, I punched him in the face, and instantly he saw stars. Several thugs hurriedly supported him, and seeing this, they quickly helped him into the van. The other thugs who fell to the ground also quickly dispersed. As they left, I checked my Redmi phone, which was still quite sturdy. I took out the card, threw the phone into the trash, and walked to a nearby mobile phone store. This Redmi phone was given to me by Diana. It once had some meaning, but now it is useless. It is broken. Fong Jia came over, straightened her clothes, and said to me hurriedly, "Thank you." I didn't respond to her and went straight into the mobile phone store. Fong Jia followed me into the store. Suddenly, she saw me clearly and seemed stunned for a moment. "What a coincidence. It's you who saved me again." I turned to look at her. "It's you." After a pause, I said coldly, "You are so brave. You knew that man was following you, but you dared to come out alone and walk around." She was a little embarrassed and explained, "Actually, it was my college roommate who tricked me. She wanted to open an art shop and invited me to be a partner. I thought it was a good opportunity." I listened to her patiently, and she continued, "But when I arrived at the agreed location, I didn't see my roommate, but met Wu Shixiang." Fong Jia looked at me and thanked me sincerely. "Luckily you showed up in time, otherwise I might have been taken away by them now." I didn't say anything, pointing at the Huawei 3 Fold phone on the counter. "Give me this one." The beauty handed the phone to me, and I picked it up to try it out. I felt that the folding feel of this phone was really good. "How much?" I asked. The beauty smiled and replied, "This 16 gigabytes plus 1 terabyte version is priced at 23,999 yuan. I lowered my head and touched my pocket, only to realize that my previous Redmi phone was lost. I looked at the beautiful woman and asked, "Can I pay by credit card?" Ding dong. Fong Jia had already scanned the code to pay. She turned around and looked at me with a smile. "I'll give you this phone." I frowned slightly. "How can this be possible?" She waved her hand. "It doesn't matter, you saved me twice, and my Redmi phone broke because of me, so it's normal to give you a phone." I felt a little embarrassed and touched the cash in my pocket. Fong Jia looked at me and smiled. "It's just a mobile phone. I can afford it." I smiled bitterly and asked her, "What's your cell phone number? I'll transfer it to you later." She smiled, asked the salesperson for a pen and paper, wrote down the number, and handed it to me. Just as she was about to save the number, her cell phone rang. It was her college roommate calling. Fong Jia was obviously unhappy. She looked at me and said angrily, "Then I'll leave first. I'll contact you by phone." After that, she left the mobile phone store. I smiled bitterly. The biggest gain today was just a trifold mobile phone. I inserted the SIM card into it, saved Fong Jia's phone number, and then turned and left the mobile phone store. Chi Wan returned to Fong Jia's villa with an angry face. As soon as she entered the door, she saw Fong Xu sitting on the sofa reading a newspaper without changing his shoes. She walked directly to Fong Xu and said in an angry voice, "Where is my bracelet?" Fong Xu was stunned for a moment and frowned. "What bracelet?" Chi Wan smiled coldly, her tone even colder. "You have a really bad memory. It seems I have to remind you. 17 years ago, when I gave birth to Fong Yuan, I put my ancestral bracelet on Fong Yuan's little hand." Fong Xu's face changed, and he instantly recalled the bracelet in his mind. A rush of emotion came over him, and he felt uncomfortable. "The one you're talking about? Didn't I tell you that it's gone? It's very likely that the nurse who took care of you stole it." Chi Wan was so angry that she grabbed the pillow on the sofa and threw it at Fong Xu's face without hesitation. "How dare you lie here? You are not worthy of being a human being. Why did I fall in love with a beast like you?" Fong Xu's expression became even uglier, but he did not resist. Chapter 55. Fong Xu, "Are you still a human being?" asked Johnson to do a paternity test. Fong Xu frowned, wanting to say something but stopping himself, knowing that he couldn't get angry. Thinking that his father-in-law was the director of the public security department, he had to shut up. He paused for a second, adjusted his expression, and slowly spoke. "Isn't it just a bracelet? Why are you so angry? Your bracelet was lost, and I went to look for it as soon as possible, but I didn't find it. Can you blame me for this?" "You." Chi Wan was so angry that she pointed at Fong Xu and wanted to slap him twice. When she was about to tell him about Johnson, Fong Yuan walked down the stairs. "Dad, Mom, it's my birthday soon, stop arguing." Fong Yuan's appearance made Chi Wan's eyes turn, and the little kindness she had for him was gone. She hated him to begin with, and when she learned that he was not her biological son, she hated him even more. Turning to leave the villa, Fong Yuan wanted to speak, but was interrupted by her closing the door. He had no choice but to look at Fong Xu, but Fong Xu ignored him completely. He was unwilling to give him even a penny of living expenses before, and it was even more impossible now. Chi Wan walked out the door and ran into Fong Jia. Fong Jia saw her sad face and frowned. "Mom, what's wrong? Is Fong Yuan causing trouble again?" Chi Wan sighed, hesitating whether to tell Fong Jia about Fong Yuan. After thinking it over again and again, she felt that she would have to know it sooner or later, so she simply told him in advance, "Fong Jia, Mommy has something to tell you, don't be too surprised." "Oh." Fong Jia was confused. "Fong Yuan is not your biological brother. Your biological brother was abandoned by your father. Fong Yuan is a bastard that your father brought here from nowhere." I spoke in a heavier tone. "Fong Yuan has put a lot of pressure on my life over the years. When I learned that he was not my biological son, my disgust was instantly magnified." After saying this, I looked at Fong Jia. I thought she would be shocked, but there was no surprise on her face. Instead, she smiled. "Aren't you surprised?" Fong Jia smiled, even brighter than before. "No, I felt that he was not my biological brother when I was a child. He was so ugly and didn't look like me or you at all." After a pause, she continued, "Until a few days ago, I met a boy, and I was even more certain that he was not my brother." Fong Jia took out a photo from her bag. It was a photo of Johnson. "Look, he looks like you. They are just like you." I stared at the photo, my heart moved, and a smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. "He is Johnson, your biological brother." Although Fong Jia had guessed it, she was still a little surprised when she heard me confirm it myself. "Really?" I nodded. "Yes, Uncle Su Fong said so himself." Fong Jia was somewhat delighted and smiled. "So, my brother should be a good person. He has saved me twice." She paused and added with a smile, "To be honest, I already like Johnson a little, but when I heard that he is my brother, it was still a little hard to accept." "Mom, how about this? You and him do a paternity test, and then do a paternity test with Fong Yuan. Then you can question Fong Xu based on the test report." I thought about it, and it made sense. Fong Yuan's sample was easy to get. I just had to take a strand of hair from his comb while he was in school. But how could I get Johnson's sample? We're not familiar with Johnson. How do we get his hair? Fong Jia smiled and took out her phone. "I've already given him my contact information. He should contact me later. I'll ask him out for dinner then. When he's not paying attention, can't I just pluck out a hair?" I smiled and said, "It seems that this is the only way." Soon, Fong Jia's phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. She was a little nervous, thinking about what Fong Xiu had just said. not letting her go out. She picked up the phone carefully. Hello. Johnson's voice came from the other end of the phone. Hello. Please use my WeChat, and I will transfer the money to you. It's you? Fong Jia suddenly remembered that the boy Chi Wan she mentioned just now was Johnson. Johnson? Johnson was stunned for a moment. Do you know me? Fong Jia smiled. Don't worry about this. I'll treat you to a meal at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Will you come? Johnson said impatiently. Sorry, I don't have time. Fong Jia did not give up and asked directly. Don't you want to know who your biological mother is? Johnson was stunned for a moment. He had wanted to know about his biological mother since he was a child, but every time he asked Zhizhou, the answer he got was always vague. You knew my biological mother? Johnson asked. Fong Jia nodded. Well, will you come tomorrow? Johnson was a little skeptical. He agreed. Okay, I'll come tomorrow. Fong Jia smiled and said, I'll apply through your WeChat and send you the address tomorrow. Johnson was a little embarrassed. How about I bring someone else tomorrow? It's not appropriate for us to eat alone. Are you afraid that I will eat you? Fong Jia was speechless. Okay, then you take it. Yeah. Johnson nodded and hung up the phone. Johnson nodded and hung up the phone. He walked around the hotel, then walked to the French window and looked out at the night view of Jiangdu. I didn't expect that this girl actually knew her own mother. I hope he doesn't lie to me. Pick up your phone. Stared at the screen for a long time. To be honest, I don't have many friends, and the QQ mobile sync assistant only backed up Kelly's mobile phone number. I hesitated for a while. Called Kelly's number. Kelly answered immediately. Hey, Johnson. How do you know I'm thinking about you not? How do you know I haven't gone to bed yet? Johnson looked embarrassed. Kelly, are you free tomorrow? Someone invited me to dinner, and she told me something about my biological mother. Chapter 56 Johnson. Your biological mother is not dead. Kelly agreed without hesitation. Yes, I'm free. But then she suddenly thought of Johnson's description. Her face slightly flushed, and she shyly asked in a low voice, Is Annie coming over too? Aunt. Johnson was stunned for a moment before he realized. My mother died of complications during childbirth. Annie died of childbirth complications? Kelly was stunned. The woman he saw a few days ago looked exactly like Johnson. Could she not be Johnson's mother? Kelly hesitated and decided not to say any more. Well, where are you tomorrow? Just send me the address. Okay. Johnson responded and sent the address to Kelly. The next day was the weekend. Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School was closed during the day. An evening self-study began at 6 p.m. Johnson got up early and went to the welfare home to volunteer. He was busy until 11 p.m. before leaving and heading to the Furongli Fish Village restaurant. Kelly was waiting at the restaurant entrance early. She paced and looked at her watch. It was almost 11:30, but Johnson hadn't shown up yet. She felt anxious. She turned around and walked around a few times. Suddenly, a sports car stopped in front of the door. Kelly recognized a woman who got out of the car at a glance. Wasn't that Johnson's mother? She was shocked and smiled awkwardly, thinking that Johnson had said that his mother died of childbirth complications. Could it be that this woman was not her? Kelly pretended to be calm and turned away, but her peripheral vision was inevitably attracted. She tried not to look, but ended up meeting Chi Wanchi's eyes. Kelly lowered her head and greeted awkwardly, Auntie. Fong Jia's eyes were drawn to her, and she frowned as she looked at Kelly. It was obvious that she didn't know this girl. Chi Wanchi recognized her at a glance, the girl who said she liked Johnson before. She looked at Kelly carefully and found that she was very beautiful and had a good temperament. Kelly was a little embarrassed. Annie, last time I thought you were Johnson's mother. So, Chi Wanchi smiled and said, I am Johnson's mother. Kelly was stunned for a moment. Annie, you are not kidding? Chi Wanchi smiled and said, Johnson was born after 10 months of pregnancy. Kelly was completely stunned, and she was puzzled. The affairs of wealthy families were indeed complicated. She smiled awkwardly. Annie, Johnson and I. She was a little incoherent, and she had no idea how to respond to this situation. She lowered her head, feeling a little uneasy. Fong Zhao looked at her and smiled. I didn't expect Johnson to have such good taste in finding such a beautiful girlfriend. Then she took out 5,000 yuan from her pocket and handed it to Kelly. This is our first meeting. Take it. Kelly declined. Thank you, sister. I don't want to. Take it. Chi Wanchi smiled. We'll be a family from now on. There's no need to be so polite. Kelly nodded shyly and took the money. The three of them then walked into the restaurant's private room. Chi Wanchi had planned to wait for Johnson to come before ordering, but Kelly had already arrived, so she let her order. Fong Zhao looked at Chi Wanchi and said, Mom, I think you should stay away for a while. When Johnson comes, I will tell him directly. He will definitely be scared. Chi Wan frowned, thinking that Fong Jiao was right. So she picked up her bag and prepared to leave. You're right, I'll go to the next room. Kelly was confused and had no idea what was going on. Then Johnson called, and she quickly picked up the phone. Hello? Are you there yet? Johnson's voice came from the other end of the line. Yes, I'm in the private room now. Kelly replied, a little embarrassedly. Oh, so soon? Johnson was a little surprised. I'll be there right away. Not long after, Johnson walked into the private room and saw Fong Jia and Kelly chatting. He frowned and asked, You two seem to be having a good time chatting? Kelly was a little embarrassed, and Fong Jia looked at Johnson with a scrutinizing look. When did you and Kelly start? Johnson was stunned and asked in confusion. Huh? We were just friends. When did we get along? Fong Jia smiled and then changed the subject. You said before that you knew my mother. Can you tell me about her? Soon. The waiter pushed the cart into the room and started to get in. Kelly couldn't understand what they were talking about, so he had to concentrate on eating. Fong Jia smiled. Your mother is very beautiful. You look a lot like her. Chapter 57. Paternity test results and Chi Wan are mother and son. Really? Johnson smiled. My dad said the same thing. He said I look a lot like my mom. Your dad? Fong Jia reacted immediately and was stunned for 2 seconds before she realized that Johnson was talking about He Zhizhou. But she was still a little confused. How could He Zhizhou know what his mother looked like? Has your father ever met your mother? Johnson was speechless. Are you asking nonsense? How could they have me if they haven't seen me? Could they breed from a distance? Kelly couldn't help laughing out loud, and the food in his mouth almost spit out. Johnson realized that his choice of words was inappropriate, but he didn't bother to care. Anyway, the words were already said, so he just laughed. Fong Jia was a little embarrassed. That's not what I meant. She was about to explain, but suddenly remembered that the paternity test had not been settled yet, so she swallowed her words back. She hesitated, unable to bring up the topic. After your mother died, giving birth to you, did your father find a stepmother? Johnson frowned. Fong Jia was obviously avoiding the main topic, talking about this and that, and not answering the question directly. No, my dad said he couldn't let me suffer any injustice, so he never looked for her again. Fong Jia was stunned. She didn't expect He Zhizhou to treat Johnson like this. He was much better than that scumbag Fong Xu. No way. Johnson nodded. Yeah. Seeing Fong Jia's suspicious look, he frowned. You don't believe it? Fong Jia smiled slightly and suddenly said without hesitation, But you are not He Zhizhou's biological son. How could he treat you like this? Johnson's face suddenly changed. What do you mean? Fong Jia then realized that she had let the truth slip. Since she had let it slip, she might as well just say it. Actually, your biological mother is not dead. She is alive and well now. What? Johnson was stunned. Since he was a child, his father and grandmother had told him that his mother had died in childbirth. But now suddenly someone told him that his mother was not dead. He couldn't accept it all. Are you lying to me? Fong Jia smiled and said, Why would I lie to you? Don't you believe it? Johnson frowned, feeling a little shaken. Could it be that my thief mom abandoned me and my dad after giving birth to me? And that's why my dad said she was dead? I'm afraid I can't accept this truth. Fong Jia saw the confusion on his face and couldn't help but frown. Why? Do you think I'm lying to you? Johnson hesitated and smiled bitterly. This is too much information. I'm having trouble digesting it. Fong Jia suggested with a smile. How about this? You provide me with a strand of hair, and I'll use your hair and your mother's hair to do a paternity test, and then you'll know whether she's dead or not. Johnson was silent for a moment, feeling that Fong Jia was sincere and didn't seem to be lying. But then he thought, if he was worth hundreds of billions, and a mother suddenly appeared, wouldn't that mean half of his property would be taken away? How about this? You provide my biological mother's hair, and I'll do the test. Fong Jia smiled and said, You don't believe me? Johnson lowered his head and smiled bitterly. My father left all his property to me. I can't just recognize my mother casually. If I get cheated, I will be really sorry to my father. Fong Jia was a little surprised. She had long been aware of the ruthless character of the children of wealthy families, but she did not expect that He Zhizhou would give all his property to a son who had no blood relationship with him. Okay, wait for me for a moment. Fong Jia got up and left the private room, going to the next room to find Chi Wan. Mom, I need a hair. Chi Wan had heard everything clearly and hurriedly pulled off her hair and handed it to Fong Jia. Fong Jia took the hair and returned to the private room and handed it to Johnson. Take it. Johnson took the hair. Although he had some doubts, He felt that Fong Jia would not deceive him. To be more cautious, he decided to divide the hair into several parts and send them to different hospitals for testing. Can you give me a strand of your hair? Fong Jia asked. Johnson was a little unhappy, but finally tore off a hair and handed it to her, thinking that he would make a decision after the results came out. Johnson was obviously not in the mood to continue eating. He immediately paid the bill. Pay the bill. Fong Jia frowned. We haven't even finished eating yet, and you're already paying the bill. Johnson scanned the QR code with his phone and paid the money in a cool manner. I have to go to the hospital to verify whether what you said is true or not. I don't want to waste time here. He looked at Kelly and added with a smile, after I leave, you can pay the bill. This meal is my treat anyway. Kelly blushed. She didn't expect Johnson to always think about her. Johnson, unhappily. Who do you think I am? Would I run away from the bill? Johnson was too lazy to argue with her, so he put on his bag and left. As he expected, Fong Jia complained a few words and left too. Kelly looked at the almost untouched food on the table and called Yue. Yue, where are you? I'll treat you to dinner. An excited voice came from the other end of the phone. Really? You're so generous? I'll be right over. Johnson went to the hospital. He divided Chi Wan's hair into 18 parts and found 3 hospitals in Jiangdu to do a paternity test. He also went to Jiangzhou to find 3 hospitals to do the same test. Soon after, 6 identification reports came out, all showing that Johnson and Chi Wan were parents. Johnson was very excited and felt that he was no longer alone. He was about to call Fong Jia, but suddenly thought that his hundreds of billions of assets could not be easily divided by a woman. So he quickly called Lawyer Li. Hello, Uncle Li, my mother is back. Lawyer Li was shocked when he heard this. What? Damn it, it's the middle of the night. Don't scare me. Chapter 58. Chi Wan directly slapped her scumbag father Fong Xu twice. Johnson looked embarrassed. Uncle Li, my mother is not dead. Lawyer Li was stunned for a moment. What's going on? Johnson took a deep breath and explained slowly. There was a girl who told me that she knew my biological mother and that I was my father's adopted son. I didn't believe her, so she gave me a hair. She told me that it was my biological mother's hair and asked me to take it to the hospital for a paternity test. The result of the test showed that the hair was from my biological mother. What? Lawyer Li felt it was too shocking. The information was too much. Johnson was not He Zhizhou's biological son, but his adopted son. Johnson's biological mother was still alive. Fuck, this is too bloody. Johnson frowned. Uncle Li, my biological mother suddenly found me. Will he take the paternity test report and take half of my property? Lawyer Li answered very firmly. Won't. Then, explained slowly and calmly. Mr. He made a will when he was a child. The property belonged to you and the old lady. Later, the old lady passed away and left all the property to you. Your biological mother will not take your property when she appears, but I don't quite understand. Johnson is not He Zhizhou's biological son, so why didn't He Zhizhou find a girl to marry? As a result, for the sake of Johnson, he never got married in his entire life. Could it be that Johnson's biological mother is He Zhizhou's sweetheart? Damn, that seems like a bold idea. Johnson heard that attorney Li had not finished speaking, and his curiosity was piqued. What don't you understand? Lawyer Li came back to his senses. Nothing. Quickly change the subject. Johnson, it's nothing. You should be careful. There are no good people in society now. Your biological mother hasn't come to see you for so many years. She suddenly showed up. She must be here for Mr. He's property. Just like Lu Chongqing, that guy is not a good person. He knows his daughter sent you to prison, but he doesn't do anything about it. However, when he learned that you had inherited all of Mr. He's property, he immediately flew back. There was a pause. Also, Johnson, don't tell anyone that you are not Mr. He's biological son. Johnson looked confused. Why? Lawyer Li took a deep breath. Human nature is sinister. Once you admit that you are not Mr. He's biological son, someone will jump out. They said he was Mr. He's biological son, and they would produce various test reports to prove that he was Mr. He's biological son, thus questioning the legitimacy of your inheritance. Johnson frowned. No way. Well, Lawyer Li sighed. He had been a lawyer for many years and had often dealt with courts. He had seen all kinds of disgusting things. For example, falsely accusing a boss of illegal fundraising and then making the boss's company your own. Many people will take risks for money, including some public officials. Don't think anyone is too noble. If they were noble, you wouldn't have been wrongly imprisoned for 3 years. Johnson frowned. It was true that there were no good people in society nowadays. Don't worry, Uncle Li, I will protect myself. Lawyerly nodded. He emphasized again. Johnson, no matter what good things Lu Chongqing says, don't pay attention to him. He is an old fox, and you can't beat him. Just remember that it was his daughter who sent you to jail, and it was their Lu group who paid Fong Xiu. Johnson squeezed the trifold. Don't worry, Uncle Lee. I will make the Lu group pay for their blood debt with blood. I want to avenge Grandma. Lawyerly nodded. You should pay more attention to safety. At this time, Chi Wan sat in the sports car, looking around anxiously. After a while, Fong Jia hurriedly ran into the car with the test report. Mom, the results are out. Johnson is my biological brother. Although Chi Wan was 100% sure that Johnson was his biological son, she was still a little overjoyed when she heard Fong Jia say this. At that time, he quickly thought of Fong Xu, the beast who actually abandoned his own son. He stepped on the accelerator and drove the sports car towards the direction of Fong Group. Fong Group, chairman's office. Fong Xu had just seen off the guests and turned to look at Fong Chen, the person he had personally trained, feeling very happy. Work hard, and Fong Group will be yours in the future. Fong Chen nodded. Yes, Mr. Fong. At this moment, Chi Wan kicked the door open. Fong Xu and Fong Chen both made a move. Fong Chen saw that Chi Wan was not here with good intentions, so he quickly found an excuse to leave. Mr. Fong, I still have things to deal with. I'll leave first. After saying that, he turned and left the office. Seeing Chi Wan's expression, Fong Xu guessed that there would be a quarrel soon. He walked to the door and closed it quietly. Before he could speak, Chi Wan asked the first question. Where did you take my son? Fong Xu frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Fong Yuan is currently studying at Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School. Where can I take him? Chi Wan slapped him in the face. You bastard, I'm talking about my biological son, not Fong Yuan. Fong Xu panicked instantly. He lived in fear every day, fearing that Chi Wan would know that Fong Yuan was not her son. He did not expect that the truth would be revealed. She bit her lip and forced an awkward smile. Wife, what are you talking about? Fong Yuan is our son. How could he not be? Chi Wan took out the paternity test report between her and Fong Yuan and threw it directly on Fong Xu's face. Do you think I'm a fool? Take a look at the paternity test report yourself. Just now, Fong Jia returned to Fong Yuan's room, pulled a hair from his comb, and immediately went to the hospital for a paternity test. The results showed that Fong Yuan was not Chi Wan's biological son. Fong Xu was completely devastated. He glanced at the paternity test report without really looking at it, and his smile seemed a little unnatural. Our biological son has super male genes and will become a criminal in the future. Our family is so well off, he will definitely develop bad habits. There was a pause. I didn't abandon our son. I put him in the home of a friend's brother, who is an expert in child psychology. He could take good care of Fong Yuan. I have also seen him in the past few years. Fong Yuan just doesn't like to study, has a bad temper, and is a little out of shape, but nothing serious has happened. Chi Wan couldn't stand it anymore and slapped him in the face. Are you stupid? Johnson was thrown into the trash by your friend's brother 17 years ago. Fortunately, if a kind-hearted person had not found it in time, his son would have died in the trash. What? Fong Xu was simply dumbfounded. Impossible. Brotherly Wei is a good person. He would never do such a thing. I won't believe it. Chapter 59. Bar owner Zheng, he proves that Michael is not Man Man. Diana completely collapses. Fong Xu gave Li Wei's brother 10 million yuan in child support. Now that Chi Wan says that the child is not his son, he will definitely not accept it. Chi Wan slapped Fong Xu in the face again. You are such an idiot. Besides, let me tell you, he has super male genes. He didn't commit any crime then. He is very handsome now, has good grades in school, and has artistic talent. Fong Xu quickly grabbed Chi Wan's shoulders. Wan Qi, you must have met a liar. After all, I'm also the second richest man in Jiangdu. There must be someone pretending to be my son. Don't be fooled. Chi Wan directly took out the paternity test report between her and Johnson and threw it in Fong Xu's face. See for yourself. After saying that, he turned and left, then paused. Fong Xu, our relationship as husband and wife has come to an end. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau when we have time. Fong Xu panicked instantly. Now the Fong group still relied on Chi Wan's father. If he divorced Chi Wan, he would have nothing. Wan Qi, please give me some time to investigate clearly, okay? Chi Wan just swung her hand and slapped him again. What the hell are you investigating? You're going to throw away your own son. So what are you investigating? Turn around and left. Fong Xu sat limply on the ground, hesitating. Li Wei couldn't have lied to me. There's no reason for her to lie to me? He immediately dialed Li Dayong's phone number. Hello, Brother Dayong. Are you home? There was some impatience on the other end of the phone. I'm at home. Fong Xu held the phone tightly. Okay, I'll be right there. After saying that, he hung up the phone, got up from the ground, and left the chairman's office. Shui Family Villa. Diana took Shui Anjing's phone and stared at the song Man Man on the screen in disbelief. She was so familiar with this song. It was Man Man's voice. The corners of his mouth stammered. This is impossible. In his third year of junior high school, Michael told Diana that Johnson was jealous of him and poisoned his throat, making him unable to sing anymore. So, Diana never heard Michael sing in the past 3 years. The video is over. Shui Anjing smiled. Miss Liu, is there anything you want to say? This? Diana hesitated. Is this video of yours fake? Michael's voice was poisoned by Johnson, and he can no longer sing. How could he possibly go to a bar to sing? Shui Anjing shook her head. Diana was really stupid. Diana, you are so stupid. Michael is not Man Man at all. His voice was made hoarse by Johnson's poison. I am totally lying to you. There is no such precise potion that will not harm the body, but only make the voice hoarse. This? Diana knew that the boy in the video was not Michael, because although the boy in the video was wearing a mask, he looked much more handsome than Michael. Shui Anjing sneered. Think about it yourself. He studied piano for 3 years, but in the end he could only play Two Little Tigers. Do you think he can be as good as Man Man? Man Man in the video plays the guitar very well. This? Diana bowed her head again. Shui Anjing took a deep breath. How about this? I'll take you to the Purple Bamboo Forest Bar now. Having said that, he took Lu Ruyan and left the villa. The two of them took a car and soon arrived at Zizulan Bar. Shui Anjing was a big customer of Zizulan Bar. When the owner Zheng He saw her, he immediately came to greet her. Miss Shui, you're here. Shui Anjing frowned. She hadn't been there for a few days, but it felt like there were fewer people in the bar than before. There aren't many people here today. Zheng He smiled and felt that the current flow of people was already very good. Although it was much worse than in the past few days, it was much better than in the previous months. Man Man, he didn't come these past 2 days, so many fans didn't see him and didn't come. Man Man didn't come? Shui Anjing frowned. Oh my god. We came here just to look for Man Man? But he didn't come today, so it was a wasted trip, wasn't it? Diana frowned. Isn't the bar owner in front of him the bar owner of Fenghuang, Ancient Town? He quickly asked. Boss, can you tell me who Man Man is now? Zheng He's eyes fell on Diana. He frowned and then remembered that she was the girl Johnson had rescued. A bitter smile. I'm sorry, Man Man said that he doesn't want anyone to know his name. There's nothing I can do about it. Zheng He was no fool. He told them that it was full of Johnsons. When the time came, Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School would report to the Industrial and Commercial Administration Bureau that he was using their school students, and they would have no chance of opening the bar. Diana bit her lip. Man Man, is it Michael? Zheng He was stunned for a moment. Michael? I don't know him. Diana could tell from Zheng He's reaction that he didn't know Michael at all, and her heart sank instantly. Shui Anjing smiled. Boss, let's put it this way. Tell me the full name, and I'll give you 100,000 yuan. This? Zheng He's eyes widened. 100,000 yuan was not a small amount of money. I can only tell you that the name is full of 2 words, and it is definitely not Michael. Diana's mood instantly fell to the bottom. She felt uncomfortable all over. She looked at Zheng He with an agitated tone. You're not lying to me? Zheng He frowned. Why would I lie to you? Michael, I really don't know him. I've seen his ID card, but he's still a student, so it's really inconvenient for me to tell you too. Diana's legs went weak, and she almost fell to the ground. This is impossible. Michael couldn't have lied to me. Shui Anjing laughed and said, Diana is so stupid. Diana, how about this? I can ask the boss to call Man Man over and confront him face to face, right? This? Diana gritted her teeth. If Man Man was really not Michael, she would cut Michael into pieces. Shui Anjing turned her head and looked at Zheng He. Boss, call Man Man over now. Zheng He was a little embarrassed. Man Man said that during this period his girlfriend has been coming to watch him sing, and he is worried about his girlfriend, so he stopped coming. What? Man Man already has a girlfriend? Shui Anjing said the word girlfriend very loudly, just to provoke Diana. Diana suffered another critical hit. Zheng He nodded. Yes, he's from the same school as me. Both are senior high school students. In order to make Diana realize her mistake completely, Shui Anjing took out a black card from his pocket. I'll give you 1 million, and you call Man Man over here. This? Zheng Yi swallowed his saliva. Shui Anjing was too generous. He couldn't resist the temptation. 1 million was not a small amount. Then I'll call Man Man now. Michael is embarrassed. Even singing nursery rhymes out of tune. He took out his cell phone and dialed Johnson's number. It took a long time to get through. Zheng Yi said in a low voice, Xiaohe, are you free today? On the other end of the phone, Johnson frowned. What's wrong? Zheng Yi's smile was a little unnatural. He didn't dare to say directly that two beauties wanted to see him. After all, Johnson had told him before that he would not meet anyone privately. There's a client who has reserved the entire bar. She wants to hear you sing tonight. She's a big customer of our bar, so we can't afford to offend her. Johnson frowned. But I've been busy lately. The first mock exam is in 2 days. In fact, he was worried about Kelly. Zheng Yi looked a little embarrassed. To be honest, he really wanted the 1 million, but he couldn't force Johnson. It was too difficult. Okay then, I'll tell the client. Johnson hesitated for a moment, then decided to help Zheng Yi one last time. Brother Zheng, how about this? I'll come over on the weekend. Good. Zheng Yi smiled, quickly covered the microphone, and spoke to Shui Anjing in a low voice. Man Man agreed to come, but it's this weekend. Shui Anjing frowned. Can't we have him come over today? Zheng Yi smiled awkwardly. There's nothing we can do about it. Shui Anjing took a deep breath. Okay, weekend is weekend. After saying that, Shui Anjing looked around and felt that without Man Man around, there was no point in staying in the bar. His eyes fell on Zheng Yi again. Then I'll come over on the weekend. After that, Shui Anjing took Diana's hand and left the bar. As soon as they walked downstairs of the bar, Diana's cell phone rang. It was Michael calling. Diana quickly picked up the phone. Hi, Michael. Michael said, unhappily. Diana, my sister and I haven't eaten in the past 2 days. I don't know if you have eaten yet. Michael was used to spending lavishly, never leaving any money on him. And when he had no money, he would ask Diana for it. He never expected that Lu Chongqing would cut off Diana's source of income, leaving him penniless. Didn't call Diana because he was afraid of angering her again. Today, he was really hungry, so he called Diana. Diana panicked for a moment and sounded apologetic. I'm sorry I've been. Shui Anjing snatched the phone away directly. You have hands and feet. There's food in the refrigerator. You can cook it yourself. And besides, Diana doesn't owe you anything, so don't ask Diana for money all the time. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Then, he returned the phone to Diana. Diana, don't you realize it yet? Michael and his sister treat you like an ATM. They call you when they run out of money. Diana looked a little embarrassed. But he saved me before? Shui Anjing felt a little disappointed with his friend. The bar owner just called Man Man. Doesn't that prove that Man Man is not Michael? Why are you so persistent in believing that Michael is Man Man? Diana gritted her teeth and smiled bitterly. The price of admitting that Michael was not Man Man was too high. Because of Man Man, her boyfriend was sent to prison, and because of Man Man, Johnson was always wronged. Soon, Diana's cell phone rang again, and it was Michael calling. The phone was snatched away by Shui Anjing again. Shui Anjing took Diana's cell phone, shook it twice, and smiled. Well, let me prove to you first that Michael is not full. Michael's phone number was immediately connected. Before Shui Anjing could say anything, Michael started complaining. Diana, what do you mean? Even a clay figure has some earthy temperament. Shui Anjing was too lazy to listen to Michael's nonsense and interrupted him directly. Michael, don't be so rude to me. It makes me sick. Believe it or not, I will kick you out of the apartment. You. Michael lost his temper instantly. It was better to stay in an apartment than in an old and dilapidated house. Let Diana answer the phone. I won't tell you. Shui Anjing sneered, his laughter full of disdain. Diana is in the bathroom and not with me. Michael didn't know what to say for a moment. Shui Anjing smiled. Michael, don't you want money? I can give it to you. Really? Michael instantly perked up. He really wanted money. With Diana in such a state, he might as well make some money and support himself. He bit his lip lightly, feeling that it was a bit bad to show his desire immediately. He quickly put away his smile. I don't want your money. Shui Anjing snorted coldly. Don't pretend in front of me. If you didn't like money, would you have tried every way to get close to Diana? Don't think I don't know that Diana has spent millions on you in the past few years. This? Michael lowered his head. Shui Anjing took a deep breath and spoke slowly. How about this? I'll give you 10 million and you leave Diana. How about that? Michael was instantly moved. 10 million is something that an ordinary person may not be able to earn even if they work for a lifetime. He bit his lip lightly, wondering whether he should agree to her request. Shui Anjing smiled. Diana is not with me now, so feel free to speak boldly. Diana can't hear me anyway. Michael's mouth curled up slightly. Really? Are you really willing to give me 10 million? Shui Anjing glanced at Diana beside him, then gave a mocking smile. Well, really, but? You have to sing a song for me. What? Singing? Michael's mind was filled with the 10 million, and he had long forgotten the lie he told Diana. I can't sing. Diana heard what Michael said. She felt like plastic surgery was like a frostbitten eggplant and almost fell to the ground. Michael couldn't even sing. Shui Anjing smiled. What can you sing? Sing it for me. Michael bit his lip and tried his best for 10 million. I can sing Two Little Tigers. Shui Anjing chuckled and almost laughed out loud. What can Michael say? He is almost 18 years old and can only sing nursery rhymes. Then sing it. Michael cleared his throat. Just as I was about to sing Two Little Tigers, someone suddenly interrupted me. After I finish singing, you can give me 10 million. Don't go back on your word. Shui Anjing smiled. She had never seen such a stupid person before. Her eyes fell on Diana, and she couldn't help but sigh. Diana was even stupider than Michael. Sing it. Michael took a deep breath. 10 million for one song. It was worth it. Then he howled at the top of his lungs. Two tigers, running fast. One has no ears, one has no tail. How strange. How strange. Shui Anjing was almost laughing madly. She hung up the phone and turned to look at Diana. Is it a full sound? Diana looked a little embarrassed. No. Chapter 61. Diana can't stand it anymore. Michael. Shut up. Shui Anjing blocked Michael's cell phone number. It's not that his voice was poisoned and he just can't sing. He sang Two Tigers and ran away, not to mention other songs. Diana's expression was particularly ugly. What on earth had she done for a green tea bitch? Asshole. Shui Anjing smiled. Diana, in a few days, when you see Man Man, it won't be too late for you to deal with Michael. Diana clenched her fists and said nothing. Apartment. Michael hung up the phone before he finished singing Two Little Tigers. He called Diana back, but her phone number was blocked. What's going on? I've been fooled. This is impossible. I'm the one fooling others. How could others fool me? Next second, Manhwa called. Michael hung up quickly. After a while, Manhwa called again, and Michael turned off his phone. Now, Diana couldn't be contacted, and he didn't dare to turn on the phone. I bit my lip, feeling particularly wronged. The next day, Lu Chongqing sat in Maba with his eyes closed. Although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. He felt extremely upset when he thought that Johnson was not his son-in-law and that he would not be able to get the hundreds of billions that Zizhou left for Johnson. Diana, this loser, was determined to give up the entire forest for a green tea bitch. Now the duck in her mouth has flown away. Sudden. The Maybach stopped suddenly, and Lu Chongqing's face was directly pressed against the table and chair. This made him very unhappy. The assistant quickly scolded the driver. Will you drive? The driver looked embarrassed. I'm sorry, someone suddenly jumped out and stopped the car. What's stopping the car? Lu Chongqing frowned and looked straight ahead. Manhwa stood in front of the car and waved to him with a smile. He turned and looked at the assistant beside him. Who is this person? The assistant looked embarrassed. Boss Lu, I don't know. Having said that, he got off the car. The assistant walked up to Manhwa. What can I do for you? Manhwa said unhappily. You are not qualified to talk to me. I need to talk to Mr. Lu. The assistant looked Manhwa up and down. You are so arrogant. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? How dare you talk to Mr. Lu? Manhwa pushed his assistant away, walked to the back seat of the Maybach, opened the door, and looked at Lu Chongqing with a smile. Hello, Mr. Lu. I am your in-law. Diana is my daughter-in-law. Lu Chongqing felt uncomfortable. Although his daughter was not particularly good-looking, she was a daughter of a noble family. How could she possibly marry someone as random as him? What nonsense are you talking about? Manhwa hurried to explain. Michael is my son. Your daughter has always liked my son and will marry him sooner or later. Therefore, Diana is my future daughter-in-law. Lu Chongqing was so angry that his face turned green. Just got off the car. He turned his head and looked at the bodyguard who just got out of the car. Drag this lunatic into the bush and give him a good beating. Manhwa panicked instantly. My dear in-law, please don't do anything. I came to you for something. Can you lend me 30 million? I don't want the betrothal gift for my son to marry into your Lu family. Lu Chongqing was about to explode. Kill him for me. The bodyguard nodded. Yes. He immediately dragged Manhwa into the bushes and beat him up. Manhwa screamed desperately. My dear, I don't want it anymore. Please let me go. Lu Chongqing gnashed his teeth. looking disgusted. Diana was really shameful. Even if she didn't like Johnson, she should at least find a family of equal status. Even if she didn't find a family of equal status, she should find a normal family. Well, he got back into the Maybach. The bodyguard beat Mayheba for a while and then got into the car. The Maybach convoy slowly drove away. Mayheba got up from the ground, unable to swallow this anger. The next day, Michael arrived at the classroom early. When he saw that Diana was not there, he pretended to be aggrieved. After a while, Diana came in. Michael glared at Diana and looked away. Normally, in this situation, Diana would come to comfort him, but she didn't this time. Michael stared for a long time and was a little surprised that Diana didn't come to comfort him. Diana now gets a sore throat just seeing him, especially last night. Her sister-in-law Bai Jie told her on WeChat that Michael's father actually asked Lu Chongqing for money, and she couldn't believe it. Michael have a father? The next second, Bai Jie sent the research information to Diana. Diana felt very uncomfortable because Michael had been lying to her for a long time. He didn't have both his parents dead. The uncle who came to ask for money last time was his father, Mayheba. Diana clenched her fists. When she met the real Man Man in 2 days, she would definitely deal with Michael herself. Michael waited for a long time without any comfort from Diana, and he became more and more upset. He turned around and walked in front of Diana. He doesn't care what other students think of him. Said unhappily, "Diana, what do you mean? I'm angry. Won't you comfort me?" Diana clenched her fists. "Are you sick? You're a boy. Why should I coax you?" Michael was shocked by Diana's reaction. What happened to Diana? Why did she suddenly become like a different person? Next second, Michael began to sob. "I knew you were beginning to dislike me. In that case, I'll make it possible for you and Johnson to be together. I'm leaving now." Diana saw the mocking looks from her classmates, and she instantly sobered up a lot. She thought about what she had done in the past few years and slapped the table. "Michael, you are a grown man. Can you please stop crying?" Michael was frightened. Diana closed her eyes. "Shui Anjing is right. I spent several million on you. I don't owe you anything anymore. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. You can get out now." Michael found that his tears were no longer effective, and he stood there in a daze, surrounded by the laughter of his classmates. He instantly felt too ashamed to stand in front of Diana and went straight back to his seat. At this time, the head teacher walked in. "Classmates, tomorrow is the first mock exam. I just discussed with Mr. Qian, the head teacher of Experimental Class 1, that after the first mock exam, we should go to Fongta to relax." The whole class cheered. The sound gradually became quieter. The monitor walked up to the head teacher. "Teacher, Yu Liang is sick. He may not be able to take part in the first mock exam tomorrow." "What?" Before the head teacher had time to worry, Michael was the first to worry. If Yu Liang had not come to take part in the first mock exam, who would he copy from? He would definitely get the last place in the exam. "Oh my God, it's over this time." The head teacher heard what Michael said and turned to look at Michael. "What's wrong?" Chapter 62. Michael is so mean. Johnson almost stepped on him to death. Michael was so flustered that he bit his lip. Nothing, nothing, nothing. At 6 o'clock in the summer, the sun was still hanging in the sky, and the golden light was scattered throughout the classroom. Johnson sat at the end of the classroom. Instead of reviewing today, he looked at the scenery outside the window. "Tomorrow is the first mock exam, and I don't know what rank I will get." Kelly came back from dinner and saw Johnson sitting in a chair, staring at the scenery outside the window. Suddenly, I wanted to walk over to him and ask him what he was thinking about. But then I felt like I was being too servile. "Just go back to your seat and sit down." The next day, the first mock exam arrived as scheduled. Michael was so nervous that he didn't want to take the exam. After all, in the past 3 years, he didn't know how to do anything except eating, shopping, and putting on makeup every day. Without Yu Liang, his image as a top student completely collapsed. Thinking for a long time, Michael decided to take the exam and ask other students at the exam room. Thinking of this, I packed my bag, left the apartment, and took the $2 bus to school. Amanda is an art student studying broadcasting. Before, Diana promised her that she would study at Jiangdu Broadcasting College. Therefore, she was not very enthusiastic about the exam. He waited about 20 minutes after Michael left before leaving the apartment. Michael walked to the school gate. He saw Johnson buying a braised pork burrito. His stomach growled a few times. He hadn't had a full meal in a while, so why should Johnson be able to eat the braised pork burrito? It's so unfair. Picked up and took away his quality of life. Michael was getting angrier and angrier, and just then he saw Diana approaching Johnson. He immediately came up with a vicious plan and quickly walked in front of Johnson. Suddenly, He turned sideways and fell to the ground. Oh! Michael lay on the ground, staring at Johnson fiercely. Johnson, are you sick? Why did you trip me? Johnson turned his head and saw Michael lying on the ground. Before he could say anything, Diana rushed over and helped Michael up. Are you okay? Michael began to sob. Diana, I'm fine. I was just walking and Johnson tripped me. Diana gritted her teeth and looked up at Johnson. Johnson, are you crazy? Why did you trip Michael? Johnson frowned and looked at Diana like she was an idiot. I tripped him? Which eye of yours saw me trip him? This? Diana lowered her head instantly. She really didn't see it just now. Michael walked behind Johnson and fell directly. He turned his head to look at Michael, and his face suddenly became very ugly. He almost forgot that Michael didn't tell the truth and pushed Michael away directly. Johnson snorted. Fuck, Diana, you pushed your sweetheart away. Don't you feel bad? Diana heard the word darling. She felt nauseous instantly. Quickly explained to Johnson. Johnson, there's nothing going on between me and Michael. Don't get me wrong, he saved me before and I saw him fall, so I showed some concern. I came here to look for you. Johnson ignored Diana and saw Michael instead. Michael, since you like to frame me so much, I will let you get solid evidence. He stepped directly on Michael's stomach while he was lying on the ground, almost making him faint. Diana became anxious instantly. Johnson turned and looked at Diana. What's wrong? Are you heartbroken? Diana bit her lip, feeling embarrassed for a moment. I don't. Johnson snorted coldly, kicked Michael in the face, then left eating the braised pork burrito. The most important thing now was to take the college entrance examination. After the college entrance examination, he would definitely kill Michael. Diana glanced at Michael lying on the ground, then looked at Johnson walking away and quickly chased after him. Johnson, listen to me. Michael lay on the ground and gasped for a long time before he recovered. After a while, he started to cry. He felt so wrong that Johnson beat him up and Diana didn't help him. Whoa, there was laughter all around. Fuck, this is Michael. He's always like this, so sissy. You should stop talking to him. He is Diana's sweetheart. If you piss him off, Diana will punish you. Damn it, Diana must be blind. She looks so disgusting, but she still treats him like her sweetheart. I don't want any money from you. Everyone has their own preferences. Michael heard his classmates laughing at him. He stopped crying instantly. He was too embarrassed to cry on the ground, so he wiped his tears and left quickly. Johnson walked into the examination room and just found his seat when Kelly also walked in. She saw Johnson sitting behind her, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but rise slightly. Also walked over. Kelly sat down. Johnson smelled the girl's faint body fragrance. He looked up, saw that it was Kelly, and lowered his head again. Soon, the invigilator came in. The other side. Michael asked everyone around him, but no one was willing to copy the paper for him. The main reason was that they all disliked him, so no one was willing to help him. Moreover, if he was caught cheating by the invigilator, his parents would be called. Start. Michael bit his lip and stared at the first multiple-choice question on the test paper. He didn't know how to answer it. Time passed by minute. Michael took a deep breath and simply wrote Johnson's name. If he did that, he would be embarrassed and not be himself. He suddenly felt that he was very smart. He handed in blank papers for the following exams. Johnson was very good at answering all the exams. He became more and more excited as he took more and more tests. It seemed that his study day and night was the right decision. A few days later, teacher's office of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School. Mathematics teacher Su Mei was scanning the answer sheet when suddenly the system prompt sounded. 0 points. Su Mei was stunned for a moment. This stack of papers seemed to be from the second examination room, which was full of students from the experimental class. How could there be a score of 0? Could it be that she had made a mistake? She checked again and found that she was from the second examination room. Then she picked up the answer sheet and saw the name on it. Johnson. Just shout loudly. Fuck! Someone in the experimental class handed in a blank paper. Instantly, everyone gathered around. Who handed in a blank paper? Are there any students in the experimental class who handed in blank papers? Oh my god, big news. The teachers of the two experimental classes frowned instantly. The experimental class is the main force of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School to get into 985 universities. If the principal knew that some people handed in blank papers, he would be scolded to death. Come over quickly to check. Johnson is not in our class. Johnson is not in our class either. Oh, I remember now. Johnson is in a parallel class in Li Hai's class. At this time, Li Hai and the principal just walked in. Li Hai had just graded Johnson's physics paper, and it turned out to be full marks, which made Li Hai a little overjoyed. so he told the principal the news. Chapter 63. Michael got an A and tried to wrongly accuse Johnson. The principal couldn't believe it. After all, it was the first mock exam, and many schools reported that the physics paper was difficult, but Johnson actually got full marks. But as soon as I walked into the office, I heard someone say that a student in the experimental class scored 0 points. And it was Johnson. What's going on? Su-mei picked up the blank answer sheet and walked up to the principal. Principal, a student in the experimental class handed in a blank paper. Qian Fong quickly corrected Su-mei. Johnson from teacher Li's class. What? Johnson handed in a blank paper. Li Hai was a little shocked. He took the answer sheet from the principal and found that it was indeed Johnson's name. That's impossible. The principal frowned. It didn't matter if he didn't take the exam, but it was wrong to hand in a blank paper. The impact was too bad. After all, Jiangdu No. 2 High School was one of the top high schools in the province. If the news of handing in a blank paper got out, he would definitely be called to the Education Bureau for questioning. Turning his head, he looked at Li Hai. Call Johnson over here. Li Hai looked a little embarrassed. Principal, this paper is definitely not Johnson's. I believe he would not hand in a blank paper. Qian Fong said sarcastically. TSK. How could a poor student not hand in a blank paper? He's been to jail before. What can he do? Li Hai turned his head and looked at Qian Fong. You. As soon as he opened his mouth, he was stopped by the principal. The principal frowned. Stop arguing and call Johnson over first. I want to ask him why he handed in a blank paper. Yes, headmaster. Li Hai looked a little unhappy and turned around and left the office. Soon, Li Hai brought Johnson to the office. On the way, Li Hai asked Johnson if he had handed in a blank paper. Johnson felt a little strange because he didn't have the habit of handing in a blank paper. The principal looked at Johnson and frowned. Johnson, is it because the math test was too difficult and you didn't know how to do it, so you handed in a blank paper? Johnson looked confused. I think the question is quite simple. Qian Fong laughed before she finished speaking. Johnson, can you please stop bragging? It's simple, and you handed in a blank paper. Johnson, a blank paper. Here is your answer sheet. Johnson saw the blank paper and couldn't help but frown. He quickly checked the candidate's personal information. I'm not his at all. Johnson smiled. This is not my answer sheet. It is not mine, and the ID number and admission ticket number are both written incorrectly. No way. The principal frowned. Johnson saw 02 written on the examination room number. This is examination room 2, the examination room for the experimental class. My examination room number is 32. Qian Fong instantly got angry. You're talking nonsense. How could a student from our experimental class hand in a blank paper? Johnson smiled disdainfully. Don't forget, there is another idiot named Michael in your experimental class. His academic performance is not very good. Maybe this answer sheet belongs to him. Michael was in the 3rd year of junior high school. His academic performance was at the bottom of the whole grade. Later, Michael paid money to bribe the students sitting in front of him in the same examination room. So his grades improved significantly in every monthly examination. Qian Fong turned her head and looked at Xin-mei, the head teacher of another experimental class. Xin-mei frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Michael is the top student in our class. He ranks around 40th in every exam. Johnson knows Michael too well. This guy is a loser who can do nothing except dressing himself up like a sissy every day. He turned and looked at the principal. Principal, my paper is the last one in exam room 32. If you give it to me now and grade it, then I will know everything, right? The principal nodded and looked at the senior math teacher. Johnson in exam room 32. Su-mei quickly searched and actually found Johnson's paper. Johnson's paper in examination room 32. Johnson's mouth curled up slightly. This paper is mine. The principal walked over, took the answer sheet from Su-mei, and took a look at it. The handwriting was very neat, so it was definitely not a blank paper. What's going on? Johnson's paper from the principal again, put it into the answering machine to scan it, and found that all the multiple choice questions were correct. He then checked the fill-in-the-blank questions and calculation questions again. Somewhat unbelievable. She looked up at the headmaster. Full marks. What? Full marks. The principal was a little shocked. No way. Johnson smiled. I won't hand in a blank paper. Besides, this is my first time taking the exam, so I'm definitely in the last exam room. How could I be in the second exam room? The principal's face turned extremely ugly. He is really a student from the experimental class. Qian Fong and Xin-mei became nervous again. That's impossible. It's impossible for students in our experimental class to hand in a blank paper. That's right. They're all top students. How could they hand in a blank paper? Suddenly a teacher shouted. Fuck, another blank paper was found in the second examination room. The name is Johnson again. It's the Chinese paper. Then another teacher exclaimed, fuck, the English paper is also blank, and he's from the second examination room, and his name is also Johnson. Both Qian Fong and Shun Mei were numb. Johnson smiled and turned to look at the principal. It has nothing to do with me. It's just that someone can't write and wrote my name to disgust me. The principal closed his eyes, feeling really unhappy. He turned his head and looked at Qian Fong and Shin Mei. You two should check whose paper it is. Qian Fong hesitated. Well, principal, I will give you a satisfactory answer as soon as possible. Shin Mei also nodded. Me too. The principal was in a good mood, but after this incident, his good mood for the whole day was gone. He turned around and left the office. Johnson saw that there was nothing for him to do, so he left too. A few days later, Shin Mei sorted out the papers of the experimental class. After counting them, she found that Michael's paper was missing. Oh damn, could it be that Michael really handed in a blank paper? Call Qian Fong immediately. Teacher Qian, have you ever lost a test paper? Qian Fong smiled somewhat relaxed. She had been worried that someone in her class had handed in a blank paper, but it turned out not to be the case. The school's grade rankings were announced just now, and the teacher who lived in the same dormitory with her told her that the person who handed in a blank paper was most likely Michael because his grade could not be counted. Therefore, his scores in all subjects were 0. Teacher Shin, the results are out. You can go to the school's official account and enter your name to check, and you will know. When Shin Mei heard Qian Fong's hearty laughter, her anus couldn't help but tighten. The one who handed in a blank paper is not from your class. No. Qian Fong smiled. Michael from your class. What? Shin Mei stood up directly from the chair. That's impossible. Chapter 64 Michael, do you still have any shame? Falsely accused Johnson again. Qian Fong was too lazy to talk nonsense. Just search the official account, and you'll know, right? This? Shin Mei's face turned pale, and she was a little afraid to face the truth. Teacher Qian. Qian Fong interrupted Shun Mei directly. Okay, I have something else to do. Let's talk later. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Shin Mei held the phone in her hand for a long time before she came back to her senses. She moved the phone to her eyes, opened the official account, found the QR code for the first mock exam results, clicked on the recognition button, and entered her name and work number. After searching carefully, I indeed did not find Michael's name. Fuck, Michael, are you that bad? The next day, Michael returned to the classroom. He heard his classmates talking about it. Oh my God. Did you hear that Johnson actually got first place in the grade? He only studied for 2 months, and before that he was working on a sewing machine in prison. I heard about it. However, it seems that he used to be the top scorer in the high school entrance examination. Later, it was because of Amanda's false accusation that he went to jail. Now he can be considered a king's return. Michael felt more and more uncomfortable the more he listened. He clenched his fists, bit his lips, and returned to his seat. The better Johnson did on the test, the more uncomfortable he felt. When the classmates saw Michael was happy, they all smiled with disdain. Screamed loudly. Did you hear that someone handed in a blank paper this time? I heard that Johnson's name was written on the test paper. I thought Johnson handed in a blank paper, but I didn't expect that he got first place in the grade. How could it be Johnson? Johnson was the last examinee, and the one who handed in a blank paper was the second examinee. No way, it's from the experimental class. Michael from our class. What? No way? Michael handed in a blank paper. Michael is the only one who doesn't have a score for this exam. If it's not his, whose score would it be? Before, Yu Liang said that Michael copied him, but I didn't believe it. But this time, I believe it. Yu Liang didn't come to take the exam, so Michael ranked last in the grade. Michael became unhappy instantly and stood up and yelled at the classmates who were talking about him. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not the last in the grade anymore. Besides, I did not hand in a blank paper, nor did I copy Yu Liang's paper. It was Johnson who handed in the blank paper. He bit his lip and wanted to rush over and fight with his classmates. The classmate looked disdainful. What about your grades? The rankings for the entire grade have come out, so why am I not seeing you? I. Michael hesitated for a long time without saying anything. The classmate snorted coldly. Why aren't you talking? Where are your grades? Michael bit his lip, and soon, tears started flowing. Whoa! Before he had cried for 2 minutes, the head teacher Shin Mei walked in without a smile on her face and yelled at Michael. Michael, come out for a moment. Michael's heart skipped a beat. He wiped his tears and went out. As soon as he walked out of the classroom, he was dragged to a deserted place by Shin Mei. Shin Mei didn't dare to speak too loudly. So she lowered her voice and roared at Michael in a low voice. What the hell is wrong with you? You handed in a blank paper. Michael lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Shinmei. He didn't expect that his perfect actions would be discovered so quickly. He bit his lips lightly and choked softly. Teacher Shun, it's not me who handed in the blank paper. It's Johnson who handed in the blank paper. Shinmei felt uncomfortable all over. Take a deep breath and try to calm yourself down. Do you think I'm stupid? Johnson's results are out, and he's ranked first in the grade. In the entire grade, only your results are blank. If it wasn't you who submitted the blank paper, then whose was it? Michael lowered his head and cried even harder. Johnson really handed in a blank paper. Shinmei gritted her teeth. You still don't admit it at this point. Do you really want to wait until the principal talks to you before you admit it? Whoa. Michael didn't dare to admit it. The impact of handing in a blank paper was too great. The results of the first mock exam were networked throughout the province. If a student from Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School handed in a blank paper, the whole province would know about it. Then Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School would become a joke. Not only would he be scolded by the principal, but he would also be looked down upon by Diana. He lowered his head and thought for a moment. Then, he raised his head and looked at Shinmei, sobbing softly. Teacher, it was Johnson who threatened me. He likes Diana and took this test to attract Diana's attention. He forced me to change the name on the test paper to his. The first place should have been mine, but I was afraid he would beat me, so I changed my name to his. In the end, Shinmei didn't do it either. What? There is such a thing? Shinmei frowned. This seems to make sense. The knowledge points in senior high school are so difficult. Johnson worked on a sewing machine in prison for 3 years, and then he got the first place in the grade after only 2 months of study. It's a bit hard to understand. Michael said makes sense. After all, Michael has the potential to be the top student in the grade. This damn Johnson is so despicable. Take a deep breath and try to calm yourself down. Turning his head, he looked at Michael. Come with me. Having said that, he took Michael's hand and walked towards the principal's office. Today, the teacher will seek justice for you and will never allow you to suffer an unjust accusation. Michael looked a little embarrassed, but then he realized that he had no way out and could only give it a try. Anyway, I was a good student and always ranked 40th in the grade in every exam, so it was reasonable that I got first place this time. But Johnson, who only studied for 2 months and operated a sewing machine, got first place in the grade. No one would believe it if I told anyone about it. Shinmei pushed open the door of the principal's office. Headmaster. The principal was chatting with Lehigh on the sofa. Johnson actually got first place in the grade this time, which was unexpected. I went to the education bureau for a meeting, and many school principals asked me how I trained him. Suddenly, the door was pushed open by Shinmei. The principal frowned. Teacher Shin, what can I do for you? The corners of Shinmei's mouth twitched slightly, and without a moment's hesitation, she opened her mouth and spoke. Principal, I checked and found that the blank paper belongs to Johnson. It has nothing to do with our experimental class. What? The principal looked confused. What nonsense are you talking about? Johnson's results are out. He ranks first in the grade. How could he hand in a blank paper? I'm not talking nonsense. Michael behind her with confidence. Michael should have been ranked first in the grade. He told me the truth. It was Johnson who forced him to write Johnson's name, so Johnson was able to get first place in the grade. And that blank paper belongs to Johnson. Michael gritted his teeth and decided that now that things had come to this, he might as well stand up bravely. Chapter 65. Johnson argued with reason, and it felt like these people's IQs had been eaten by dogs. I squeezed out 2 tears and sobbed softly. Principal, it's all my fault. If I had been brave enough to say no to Johnson, I wouldn't have let that scumbag Johnson deceive you. He likes Diana and wants to show off in front of Diana, so he forces me to write his name on my test paper. I'm afraid of him, so... Before he finished speaking, Michael started crying. Shinmei quickly comforted Michael. Okay, don't cry. The teacher will do justice for you. He turned and looked at the principal. Principal, this is the whole truth. Lehigh couldn't listen anymore. Michael and Johnson are not in the same examination room. Even if Michael wrote Johnson's name, ID card, and admission ticket number. But Johnson took the exam in the last exam room, and all his papers were also in the last exam room. Michael shuddered. How could this be explained? Bit her lip. Teacher Lee, Michael, and I switched exam rooms. He came to room 2, and I went to his exam room. I didn't expect him to be so stupid as to write his own name while taking the exam in room 2. As he spoke, he started to sob again. What? Lehigh frowned and was about to speak when he was interrupted by Shinmei. Shinmei snorted coldly. Teacher Lee, the thing on your shoulder is your brain, not a tumor. Think about it yourself. Johnson has been using a sewing machine for 3 years, and he only learned it for 2 months, but he became the top student in the grade. Do you think it is possible? Lehigh gritted his teeth. How can it be impossible? Johnson used to be the top student in the middle school entrance exam, which shows that he has a talent for exams. It was only because he was framed by a villain that he didn't go to jail and work on a sewing machine for 3 years, but that doesn't mean he's not smart. Shinmei looked disdainful. That was in the past. I'm talking about now. Besides, who knows if he cheated in the high school entrance exam? Lehigh felt like he was talking to a cow. You are being unreasonable. Shinmei laughed contemptuously. You can't argue with me, so you think I'm being unreasonable. The principal's ears were calloused from hearing this, but to be honest, he didn't believe that Johnson would threaten his classmates. After all, it was just an exam, and Johnson wouldn't threaten others to get first place in the grade. Okay, stop arguing. Turning his head, he looked at Lehigh. Mr. Lee, call Johnson over now and have him confront Michael to see if it's what Meggie said. Michael panicked instantly. Don't want. Everyone looked at him in unison. The principal frowned. What's wrong? Michael lowered his head and hid behind Shinmei, not daring to speak. Shinmei looked like she hated evil. Before going directly to Johnson, we must make this public and let all the students know. Otherwise, if we deal with it privately, Johnson will most likely cause trouble for Michael. Turning his head, he looked at Michael. Don't be afraid. There is still a teacher. The principal frowned. Okay, let's go find Johnson and ask him about this. Finished. The principal left the office. Lehigh followed him, and Shinmei and Michael also left. Parallel classrooms. The students were all talking about it. Oh my God, Johnson used to study all day, but someone spread rumors that he watched porn movies. I didn't expect that he would get first place in the grade this time. It seems that some rumors are not credible. I used to look down on him and didn't want to talk to him, but now I realize that he doesn't even care about talking to us. I heard from Yu Wei that Johnson is very rich. After his rental house burned down last time, he has been renting a presidential suite in a 7-star hotel. The cost per night is more than 3,000 yuan, and it has been more than 2 months. Alas, it's all because of the rumors. If we want to talk to Johnson now, I guess he won't want to talk to us anymore. Kelly used the makeup mirror to look at Johnson obsessively. She didn't expect Johnson to have such good grades. She always wanted to find a boyfriend who was a top student. She didn't expect Johnson to hit her excitement point again. Johnson was admiring his paper. I didn't expect myself to be so awesome. I must reward myself with a chicken drumstick tonight. Sudden. The principal, class teacher Lehigh, experimental class teacher Shun Mei, and Michael rushed in. Walk over to Johnson's desk. Johnson looked away from the paper and looked at the principal. What's the matter? The principal had a complicated expression and asked somewhat embarrassedly. Did you threaten Michael to do the test for you? Johnson frowned. I threatened him? Shinmei roared at Johnson, and her saliva almost fell on Johnson's face. Johnson, you are so shameless just to get into the experimental class that you even threatened Michael to write the test paper for you. Believe it or not, I will ask the principal to expel you. Johnson looked unhappy. Which eye of yours saw me threatening Michael? Shinmei pushed Michael. Tell him what he threatened you with. Don't be afraid of him. If he dares to touch you, I will make sure he is sent to jail. A scumbag with super male genes like him should be strangled to death at birth. Johnson was instantly unhappy and yelled at Shinmei. Keep your mouth shut. Shinmei refused to give in and fought back sharply. I have a bad mouth, so what? You rapist, I don't know what the principal was thinking to let you study in Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School. Lehigh couldn't bear to watch it any longer. You are making up rumors without any evidence. Johnson is guilty of an improving crime. You are a teacher, not a shrew. You. Just as Shun Mei was about to speak, she was interrupted by the principal. Okay, stop yelling. I'm annoyed when I hear you say, okay. You're not serious at all. Don't be the homeroom teacher next semester. Shinmei stopped talking for a moment and became much quieter. The principal looked at Johnson. Johnson, take out your first mock exam paper and give me your usual papers so I can compare them. Michael panicked instantly. Principal, Johnson knew you would check it, so he asked me to imitate his notes. So, your comparison is useless. Johnson sneered. Michael is always so shameless. He directly took out a recorder. Michael, I have recorded everything you said. You must be responsible for what you said. I will not let you wrongly accuse me again. Michael was stunned. Johnson, The principal checked it carefully. The handwriting is exactly the same. It doesn't look like it was written by Michael. Michael had cold sweat on his forehead and muttered quietly. Principal, Johnson threatened me that my handwriting must be exactly like his. Just shut up. Johnson was a little unhappy. How could there be a jerk like Michael in this world? Shinmei looked smug. What's wrong? Are you anxious? Afraid that Michael will tell the truth. Kelly was upset when she saw a group of people making things difficult for Johnson. He stood up and walked to the principal's side. Chapter 66. Diana starts to find Michael and his sister disgusting. Principal, I can prove that this paper was written by Johnson. I sat in front of him during the exam. Lee Hai smiled and turned to look at Shinmei. Since a classmate has proved that Johnson was in the last examination room, what else do you have to say? Shinmei gritted her teeth, her face becoming particularly ugly. Now there is evidence that Johnson was in the last examination room, so the paper in the second examination room must be Michael's. Damn, Michael fooled me. But now, the matter has been reported to the principal. If he just admits that it was a mistake, not being the class teacher is the least of his worries. He could even be fired. She turned and looked at Kelly. You are a poor student. What qualifications do you have to testify? Kelly looked disdainful. Being a poor student doesn't mean you have a bad character. The principal turned and looked at Shinmei. He didn't commit murder or arson, so why can't he testify? This. Shinmei hesitated. Michael quickly pulled the corner of Shinmei's clothes. Teacher, why don't we go? Johnson asked the school beauty to give him a false testimony. Even if I am right, I can't clear myself now, even if I jump into the Yellow River. Johnson was instantly unhappy. Michael, can you please stop talking nonsense all the time? Sure, then find someone to prove that you were in the last exam room. If that doesn't work, you can also use the school surveillance. Michael panicked instantly. Amanda, who was standing at the door and observing secretly, saw her brother Michael's embarrassing situation, turned around and left without hesitation, going to the experimental class to find Diana. Diana sat at the table, flipping through a book in an annoyed mood. This time, Johnson got the first place in the whole grade and became the focus of all the girls. Everyone was talking about Johnson. This made Diana very upset, especially when her female classmates didn't care whether she was around or not. They said Diana was really blind for not wanting such an excellent boyfriend and instead wanted Michael, the green tea guy. This is very frustrating. Just when I was about to finish reading the math, Amanda rushed in. Sister-in-law, please save my brother. Diana was completely numb. She looked around and saw that all her classmates were laughing at her. Just now, she was mad at us, saying that there was nothing wrong between her and Michael. Johnson was her boyfriend, and Amanda even called her sister-in-law. This kind of woman is really disgusting. She is greedy and sends Johnson to jail. She still has the nerve to say that she is Johnson's girlfriend. He and Michael are a perfect match, a green tea girl and a bitch. Diana clenched her fists and yelled at Amanda. What are you yelling about? Who is your sister-in-law? There's nothing wrong between your brother and me. Can you please stop yelling? Sister-in-law? Amanda was frightened by Diana's momentum and started to sob. Diana looked around and saw voices everywhere mocking her. If Amanda continued crying like this, she would be the one to be embarrassed, not Amanda. Because the whole class is too tired to complain about Amanda. Diana quickly comforted Amanda. Stop crying. I gritted my teeth and suddenly felt that Michael and his sister were quite disgusting. Take a deep breath, comforting in a low voice. There are so many people here, it's not appropriate for you to call me sister-in-law. If the teacher hears, your brother, and I will call the parents. There aren't many people here, so you can call me whatever you want. Mei Pai's sobs became a little softer, and she nodded gently. Diana smiled bitterly. Shui Anjing was right. Michael and his sister were just a pair of trash. Only she treated them like treasures. She gritted her teeth and decided that it was not appropriate to get angry with Michael and his sister now, as the person who saved her had not been investigated clearly. Amanda, you are in such a hurry. Is there something wrong? Amanda wiped her tears and put on a face with a ferocious expression. That rubbish Johnson, he got first place in the grade only because he swapped papers with my brother. What? Amanda could finish her words. She was interrupted by Diana. You just said Johnson and your brother switched papers? Amanda nodded. Well, my brother should have been the first in the grade, but Johnson threatened my brother, so he had no choice but to exchange papers with him? Is there such a thing? Diana frowned, and she felt a little better after hearing what Amanda said. Amanda bit her lip. That shameless Johnson was found by the teacher to have swapped my brother's test paper. Not only did he deny it, he also teamed up with Kelly, that bitch, to frame my brother. What? Diana gets very angry when she hears Kelly's name. Now Johnson ignores her, largely because of Kelly. Amanda squeezed back 2 tears. Wow, sister-in-law, please go help my brother. The principal just said that my brother slandered Johnson and wants to expel him. Diana clenched her fists. That's too much of a bully. No, I have to seek justice for your brother. Turning his head, he looked at Amanda. Where are they now? Amanda bit her lip. In the parallel class, Johnson's classroom. Sister-in-law, you have to go quickly, otherwise my brother will be expelled. Diana stood up, left her seat, walked out of the classroom, and quickly walked towards the parallel class. As soon as she reached the door, she saw Michael wiping his tears. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The principal frowned. You're a boy, don't keep crying. Since you said Johnson forced you to switch exam rooms, then bring out the witness. If you can't, just wait for Teacher Lee Hai to come back. He's in the monitoring room now to investigate and watch the surveillance video. I will. Michael had no choice but to cry. The principal was a little impatient. You are a grown man, but you cry all day long. Don't you feel ashamed? Michael's crying quieted down a little. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The principal really wanted to slap Michael in the face. A man was crying like a woman, endlessly. Don't cry. Since you said Johnson switched exam rooms with you, then show us the evidence. In the test paper, the handwriting is clearly Johnson's. How can you argue? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Michael wiped his tears with the back of his hand. This scene just triggered Diana's maternal love. She came over quickly. Johnson and I were classmates in elementary school and desk mates for 3 years in junior high school. Is it true that I recognized his handwriting at a glance? Michael seemed to have grasped at straws. Diana ignored Michael and continued talking to the principal. Principal, if you let me take a look at the test paper, I will know who wrote it? Yes or no? Chapter 67 Fong Xu has been arrested and imprisoned, and he is only left with one breath. Diana with confusion. Diana nodded. Yes. Johnson looked unhappy. Principal, isn't this funny? Diana is Michael's girlfriend. She must be on Michael's side. Let her see it. She will definitely say that this paper is Michael's. You might as well take out the papers Michael has done before and see them. His papa character recognition rate is very high. Diana bit her lip. She felt uncomfortable when she heard Johnson say that she was Michael's girlfriend. Johnson, I don't like Michael. I have nothing to do with him. I just think you shouldn't bully him. I bullied him? Johnson snorted coldly. If the principal hadn't been here, he would have slapped Diana a dozen times. Are you stupid? He handed in a blank paper with my name on it, and then came to me with the principal and the teacher. He said that the paper that got me first place in the grade was his. How did you turn his shameless behavior into me bullying him? Diana hesitated, not knowing what to say for a moment. He turned and looked at the principal. Principal, don't worry. I will be fair and will never favor anyone. The principal checked the time on his phone and saw that Lee Hai would be back soon. It would be okay to let Diana check. Good. He gave Johnson's paper to Diana. Diana saw Johnson's test paper. Her mind went blank for a moment. She was fooled by Amanda. The handwriting is neat and beautiful, and it is not Michael's shabby handwriting at all. Biting his lips lightly. What should I do? To be honest, Michael will definitely be fired. I'm sorry, Johnson. I will help Michael one last time. Just this time, you must understand me. He looked up at the principal. Principal, this is not Johnson's handwriting. He can't write so beautifully. This is Michael's handwriting. The principal looked embarrassed. Johnson was right. Haven't spoken yet. Johnson laughed. Diana, do you still want some shamelessness? Diana moved her lips slightly to hide her inner panic. Johnson, I'm just telling the truth. Johnson shook his head slightly and turned to look at the headmaster. Well, since you all like to protect Michael and don't believe me, why don't Michael and I just redo the test paper? Michael panicked instantly. He couldn't do it again. Even if he tried his best, he could only get a few points. He definitely wouldn't agree to do it again. No, you've memorized all the answers to the test paper. You'll definitely get full marks. Then, we'll both get full marks. How do you say that? Johnson smiled. Then let's do the new test paper. Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School has paper A and paper B for the monthly exam. This time the exam is paper A, and we'll do paper B. At Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School, there are 2 sets of papers for each monthly exam, paper A and paper B. If paper A is taken in the monthly exam, paper B will be used as homework in the second week for students to take home and do. Michael panicked even more. Paper B was harder than paper A. If he guessed on paper A, he might get 5 or 6 points. If he took paper B, he would get 0 points. No! Johnson laughed. He had long guessed that Michael would definitely say no. He was a very poor student in junior high school, so how could he possibly do well in high school? Johnson smiled. Redoing the test doesn't work, and neither does making a new test. So what do you think is the best way to solve this problem? Michael hesitated. Johnson turned and looked at Shun Mei and the principal. Do I need to prove this? If Michael could write, he would definitely choose to do the test to prove his innocence, but unfortunately he can't. Shun Mei's expression was particularly ugly. Michael, this shouldn't be the case. You are ranked in the top 40 in the whole grade. How can you be afraid of doing the test paper? Michael started to cry. Johnson sneered. He might have copied the 40th place in the grade. The student sitting in front of him didn't show up for the exam. So, he didn't copy the paper, and he didn't know how to write, so he had a hand in a blank paper. Michael looked at Johnson with horror, not expecting that what he said was right. Explain quickly. Teacher Shin, I'm just too tired. I feel a lot of pressure to do the new test paper. I will definitely do well in the next monthly exam. Shin Mei bit her lip. She didn't believe Johnson's nonsense. Johnson, don't you know how stressful it is to do a test? He has already tried his best to get first place in the grade. Now you ask him to do it again. Do you know how tiring it is? She always believed that the first place in the grade belonged to Michael. Johnson chuckled. He was too lazy to explain to a bunch of idiots. He took out his cell phone and looked at Shinmei. I will call the police right now. They are professionals. Let them identify the handwriting and see if it is mine. Michael panicked instantly. Don't want. Diana saw that things were about to get out of hand and was about to speak when two policemen walked in. No need to call us. We're here right now. The principal looked embarrassed that he even alerted the police just for a transcript. Police comrade, what are you doing here? The policeman's smile was a little unnatural. Fong Xiu had been arrested and put in prison. He was beaten half to death by the prison guards and was only breathing his last breath. Later, the police found out after asking around that Johnson was the grandson of Director Chi. Most of the police officers involved in the arrest of Johnson have now been arrested. They were all beaten beyond recognition. This time, the two of them came to arrest Michael and Amanda. As for Diana, Liu Chongqing already knew about it in advance, so he quickly transferred the E9 plot of land in North City Delta to Chi Tongwei. Liu Chongqing didn't expect that Johnson was actually Chi Tongwei's grandson. He was a little impressed by He Zhizhou, who was quite capable and managed to get Fong Zhu's wife into his bed. When Chi Wan was young, she was the campus beauty of HUSD. Although she is in her 40s now, she still has charm. The dean ran to the principal and whispered, Are the police here to arrest Michael and Amanda? The principal frowned. Why arrest them both? The dean glanced at the policeman and spoke slowly. Amanda wrongly accused Johnson of raping her. Now the police suspect that the two of them deliberately framed Johnson and want to take them both back for questioning. The principal frowned. He had also heard about Johnson's incident, and it was indeed very infuriating. Amanda was so ugly that he was unwilling to touch Amanda even if he was given $200,000, let alone Johnson. The policeman walked up to Michael. You are Michael, right? Michael's face turned pale instantly. His body kept shaking, and he felt like he was surrounded by a circle of cold air. Uncle Police, what's going on? Chapter 68. Now the police have proved that Grandma has passed away. Diana, what else do you want to say? The policeman spoke slowly. I heard from Fong Xiu that you gave him $500,000 to frame Johnson. Is that right? Diana was completely stunned when she heard this. She couldn't believe that Michael actually gave the criminal police captain Fong Xiu $500,000 to let Fong Xiu wrongly accuse Johnson. He even foolishly helped to capture Johnson. Michael intently. Michael, is what the police said true? Michael's mind went blank. It was over. It was all over now. Didn't that damned Fong Xiu promise me that he wouldn't sell me out? How could he have bought me out so quickly? He turned to look at Diana with a pitiful tone. Woo woo woo, Diana, I was wrong. Johnson is rich and powerful. He can say whatever he wants. The police must have accepted bribes from him. I knew that my sister and I had no power and could not defeat Johnson. If I knew this, I would not let my sister call the police. Well, Diana clenched her fists. The police snorted. We checked the police report records. It was 3 years ago, on June 25th at 4 p.m., your sister ran to the police station to report that she was raped by Johnson at around 1 p.m. in the basement of Rainbow Shopping Center. But Rainbow Shopping Center doesn't have a basement. Michael bit his lip. Fortunately, Diana had asked him the question before, so she had given him a heads up in advance. He wiped his tears and answered very naturally. My sister was raped and was in a trance. It's possible that she remembered it wrongly. The policeman smiled. 3 years ago, the police had already retrieved your sister's movements and found that she had never been to Rainbow Shopping Center. To be more precise, she had stayed at home the entire morning. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I left home and took the bus to the police station. I hesitated for more than an hour before I went in to report that I had been raped. Michael was completely stunned. He didn't expect there was surveillance. That morning, he and his sister Amanda conspired at home to frame Johnson. He did a lot of ideological work on Amanda for a long time before Amanda agreed to use her innocence to frame Johnson. She lowered her head and bit her lips gently. Maybe Johnson raped my sister in my home. Johnson snorted. Michael, your sister is such a pig, I want to vomit just by looking at her. And you raped her? I can be reborn again now, and I will give 10,000 yuan to anyone who kisses your sister. The students were talking about it. Fuck, 10,000 yuan. Even if you give me 200,000 yuan, I won't kiss her. Amanda is too ugly. I really couldn't eat it. I couldn't look at her directly many times. I wanted to vomit when I saw her. I really want the $10,000, but I really can't bring myself to do it. I feel like it's better for me to kiss a stinky rag than to kiss Amanda. Amanda stood outside the classroom, clenched her fists, and stared at Johnson. You bastard. I will kill you. The police looked at Michael and continued. We also retrieved Johnson's movement trajectory. He accompanied his grandmother to the park for a walk at 8 a.m., returned home at 10 a.m., stayed at home for half an hour, and took a bus to attend a class reunion. The party lasted until 1 o'clock. The video from the restaurant showed that Johnson received a call and rushed to the hospital. He stayed in the hospital until he was taken away by the Liu family bodyguards. Johnson turned and looked at Diana. Diana, do you hear me clearly? I am innocent. My grandma was killed by you, you beast. Diana's mind went blank. Michael fiercely. Why did you frame Johnson? Michael was terrified. Diana would never forgive him if she knew the truth. Who knows, what was waiting for him was the cruelest revenge. Diana, I'm not lying to you. The police are just talking nonsense. They have been in cahoots with Johnson for a long time. Diana slapped him directly, and the loud noise scared the classmates. Roared viciously. Things have come to this point, and you still want to lie. As he said that, he took out the hymen examination report from his pocket and threw it in Michael's face. Look for yourself. Your sister Amanda's hymen is intact. Ever since Liu Chongqing told Diana last time that there was no basement in Tianhong shopping mall, Diana had begun to suspect Michael and Amanda, but Amanda had saved her before, so she didn't pursue the matter further. Johnson chuckled. Diana, you actually knew I was wrong a long time ago. You even have evidence, but you just don't want to show it. Haha, you Liu family members are more disgusting than each other. Diana panicked instantly and turned to look at Johnson. Johnson, listen to my explanation. I only found out afterwards that Michael cheated me. But he was my lifesaver. I thought you had already been in jail for 3 years, so there was no need for him to go to jail too. Johnson slapped Diana in the face. You double-standard bitch, my grandma was killed by you. I really want to strangle you to death right now. Diana covered her red face and shed tears in grievance. I'm sorry, Johnson. Michael heard that Diana still wanted to save his life. He yelled at Diana frantically. Diana, I saved you once before. You save me now. Then, we won't owe each other anything. Don't worry, I will take my sister away from Jiangdu later. Diana covered her red face and said nothing. Michael and his sister went too far. He couldn't forgive these two bitches. Moreover, Johnson is still angry now. If I protect Michael, there will be no possibility for me and Johnson. Besides, I have given Michael too much, and I don't owe him anything anymore. Seeing that Diana didn't say anything, Michael quickly brought up the matter of how he took care of his grandmother. Diana Johnson has been in prison sewing for 3 years, and I have been taking care of my grandmother. My grandmother has always treated me as her own grandson. Even if you don't do it for grandma's sake, at least save me once, because I've taken good care of her over the past few years. Diana relented, and Michael took good care of her in the past few years. Although he was the one who wrongly put Johnson in jail, he made up for it by taking care of his grandmother. Just about to speak, Johnson really couldn't help it. He pushed the table away, kicked Michael, and then punched him a dozen times. If the police hadn't stopped him, Johnson would have beaten Michael to death. You beast, you still have the nerve to mention Grandma. If it weren't for you, Grandma wouldn't have died. Do you know that Grandma died in the emergency room of the hospital because you and your sister falsely accused me of rape and no one paid for her medical treatment? The police pulled Johnson away. Calm down, the law will punish him. Trust us. Johnson gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Michael started to sob. Johnson, you bastard. Chapter 69. Michael was taken away by the police, but Johnson did not intend to let him go. Diana glanced at Michael with concern, then looked up at Johnson. Johnson, you're going too far. Michael has been taking care of Grandma for 3 years after all. Johnson slapped Diana in the face, breaking 2 of her teeth. This idiot, Grandma's been dead for 3 years. How can he take care of her? Is he going to hell? Diana covered her red face and looked at Johnson with a frown. What nonsense are you talking about? Grandma is now living in Switzerland in retirement. After saying this, she suddenly lost her confidence again. Michael kept lying. Could it be that Grandma was really dead? Johnson laughed. Diana, the police are here today. Let them tell you whether my grandma is still alive. Diana turned and looked at the police. The police looked a little embarrassed. It was their mistakes that led to Mrs. He's death. He lowered his head and said with some regret, Mrs. He has passed away. 3 years ago, because no one paid for her medical treatment, she died in the emergency room. What? Diana couldn't believe it. But Switzerland. Lu Chongqing walked in directly from the classroom. Michael has already arranged it with the nurse in Switzerland. You just need to call, and the nurse will say that Mrs. He is fine and give Grandma Johnson 50,000 yuan a month for living expenses. All of it went into Michael's pocket, and he used the 50,000 yuan to buy all kinds of bags and luxury goods. Every bill Michael had in the past 3 years. Just check the account yourself, and you will know everything. Lu Chongqing was afraid that the police would come and arrest Michael, but Diana, that idiot, went to the police to protect Michael, so she hurried over. Diana took the bill and looked through it herself. In addition to the 10,000 yuan she gave Michael every month for living expenses, Michael could spend an additional 50,000 yuan every month. My face turned livid, my teeth chattered, and my body trembled. I never thought Michael would lie to me. Looked up at Michael. You bastard, you never tell the truth. I trusted you so much and thought Grandma was still alive. Michael's legs collapsed, and he sat directly on the ground. He started to cry. Diana, they are all lying to you. Grandma is not dead, and I did not frame Johnson. Diana gritted her teeth. Okay, you said Grandma is not dead, so you can make Grandma appear in front of me now. Michael simply ran out of strength. Diana, can you please forgive me this time? Diana kicked Michael directly. You bastard, I forgive you. Then you let Grandma come back to life. Michael violently, but was stopped by the police. Don't fight him anymore. We will punish him with the law. After saying that, he turned and looked at the principal. Michael and Amanda, we need to take them both back to the police station. The principal nodded desperately. Okay. The policeman looked at the principal. Then call Amanda over as well. Amanda, who was standing at the door, felt her legs go weak, and she sat down on the ground. Didn't her brother say that it was okay to wrongly accuse Johnson? Why is he going to jail now? The police happened to notice Amanda. He walked over and handcuffed her. 2 policemen escorted Michael and Amanda Lakei out of the school. The students who were watching the fun in the classroom and outside the classroom were talking about it. See? I told you that Johnson was wrongly accused, but you still didn't believe me. This is so disgusting. How can there be such disgusting siblings in this world? The girls were even more excited. Oh my God, I always thought Johnson was a rapist and didn't dare to get close to him. I didn't expect him to be innocent. Is it too late for me to care about him now? It's really shocking that I actually believed Amanda's lies and passed by the rich second generation. What the hell? What the hell? What am I doing? I should have believed that Johnson was innocent right away, but I actually avoided him. Now, he is innocent, but I have nothing. Lu Chongqing saw the police leave and looked at Johnson with a smile. Johnson, Diana was also blinded by that villain Michael. Please don't hate her. Johnson sneered. You said it so lightly. I was imprisoned for 3 years, and my only relative, my grandmother, passed away. You just said don't hate Diana. So do you forgive her just like that? Diana bit her lip lightly and looked at Johnson with a complicated expression. Honson, I'm sorry. Johnson gnashed his teeth. He would make Diana pay with blood. Oh. Diana wanted to speak more, but was stopped by Lu Chongqing, who smiled awkwardly. Johnson, I understand that you are upset. When you feel better, we will bring Diana to apologize to you in person. After saying that, he took Diana and left. Shen Mei was confused. It happened so suddenly. Before Fong Yuan came over, Michael was taken away by the police. She was about to speak. Li Hai ran in panting. Principal, I've checked it out. Johnson took the exam in the last exam room, and Michael took the exam in the second exam room. The surveillance camera captured that Michael handed in a blank paper. What? Shen Mei was completely dumbfounded. No way, Mr. Li, you must have seen it wrong. Li Hai was speechless. Fuck, the surveillance camera captured it all. Why are you still trying to make excuses? Shen Mei's face was not pretty. Michael had screwed her over badly this time. What should she do now? Should she admit her mistake to the principal? Hesitate. This. The principal interrupted Shun May's hesitation. Teacher Shun, please stop chattering. I am annoyed by your voice now. From now on, you are no longer the class teacher. In addition, you must write a 10,000-word self-criticism and read it in front of all the students during the break tomorrow. And you will lose your bonus this year. After saying that, he turned and left. Shun Mei was stunned. She roughly calculated her bonus, and it was more than 500,000 yuan. In addition, if she did not serve as the head teacher of the experimental class, her bonus next year would definitely be reduced by half. He quickly ran towards the principal. Principal, listen to me. I'm innocent too. I just trusted my students too much. I didn't expect Michael to lie to me. Li Hai saw the principal and Shun Mei leaving and turned around to look for Michael. Where's Michael? The squad leader whispered to Li Hai. Teacher Li, Michael was arrested by the police. Oh. Li Hai was a little surprised. Why? The squad leader glanced at Johnson and said in a low voice. It's still a case of wrongly accusing Johnson. He was taken away by the police. Li Hai smiled, then showed an expression of hatred for evil. This kind of garbage should be taken away by the police. Turning his head, he looked at Johnson. Johnson, study hard. That kind of rubbish has been dealt with. No one can influence you. Johnson clenched his fists. It was too easy for him to let Michael go to jail. He would bribe the police later. Put Michael in the prison where he used to be and let his younger brothers in prison give him a good beating. Okay, Mr. Lee. Chapter 70. Michael was beaten badly in prison, and someone splashed water all over him. After evening self-study, Diana stood not far from the gate of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School, watching Johnson leave, feeling mixed emotions. She actually believed the nonsense of that idiot Michael and sent her boyfriend to jail. She watched Johnson walk further and further away, and her heart became more and more desolate. She wanted to go over and explain, but any explanation would be feeble and powerless. I had no choice but to turn around and leave. Shui Anjing sat quietly in the living room of the big villa, watching the 60-inch LCD TV. Although she and Diana were not from the same school, she had heard that Michael and his sister were taken away by the police. So she asked the nanny to prepare a whole table of seafood and waited for Diana to come back. After a while, the sound of a door opening was heard. Shui Anjing turned her head and saw Diana walking in from outside in a very embarrassed manner. Shui Anjing smiled, picked up the remote control, and turned off the TV. Walk in front of Diana. Diana, what's wrong? Why do you look so haggard today? Diana gnashed her teeth when she thought about how she had been deceived by that idiot Michael. And Jing, Michael actually lied to me. I always thought Johnson raped his sister, but I didn't expect that the brother and sister lied and called the police falsely. Shui Anjing sneered. I told you a long time ago that Michael lied, but you just didn't believe it. With Amanda's looks, if she was thrown on the street and someone was paid 500 yuan, no one would sleep with her. Johnson is so handsome and rich. How could he possibly fall for her? There was a pause. Besides, there is no basement in Tianong Shopping Mall. Diana couldn't help but clench her fists when she heard this. I used to think Michael was a simple, kind boy, but I didn't expect him to be full of lies. Cut. Shui Anjing looked disdainful. You've added a layer of filter to her. When I was in middle school, many classmates said Michael was a green tea bitch who liked to spread rumors about others and steal things. Diana opened her eyes wide and looked at Shui Anjing. Really? Shui Anjing shook his head. Did you hear Michael talking about how popular he is again? This? Diana lowered her head. It was indeed as Shui Anjing said. Many of the words praising Michael were said by Michael himself, or by anonymous netizens on the school forum or school post bar. I have indeed never heard other students praise Michael. I once heard Johnson say that Michael was not a very good person. I thought he was jealous of Michael and said that on purpose. After saying this, Diana couldn't help but laugh at herself. The matter of grandma, I was completely mentally retarded and was played around by Michael. I actually believed Michael's lies so easily that my grandma was still alive and was being well taken care of by him. Michael, this bastard, it's too good for him to go to jail. Shui Anjing smiled. Diana, I've already told you that Michael is not a good person, but you didn't believe me and even said that I looked down on him. Diana bit her lip, looking embarrassed. He was my savior, so I must have protected him more. Shui Anjing smiled slightly, then looked reproachful again. Diana, why are you still so stupid? Michael never tells the truth. Why do you still think he is your savior? You were thrown into the Tuajiang River by a drunkard. I was there at the time. Although the boy who saved you was wearing a mask, I still remember the overall outline of his body. It was not Michael at all. Diana lowered her head. Shui Anjing sighed. Tomorrow is the weekend. Man Man will come over tomorrow, and it will be clear whether Michael saved you or not. Patted her shoulder gently. Diana, sit down and eat. At this time, Michael was burned on the toilet. He was beaten and kicked by a group of prisoners and was almost beaten to death. Now he was covered with bruises and his hands were burned on the toilet. From time to time, prisoners would come to urinate, and the urine would always splash on him, which made him feel very wronged. He wanted to call Diana, but the prison guards would not give him the opportunity. However, even if she could call, Diana didn't want to talk to him. Thinking of this, Michael started to cry. Suddenly, a prisoner got up from the bed and kicked Michael in the face. Michael didn't squat steadily and sat down on the ground, and the urine in the urine bucket spilled all over the ground and all on Michael. The prisoner said viciously, "Cry a few times. A grown man just knows how to cry all day long, and you've cried all my fortune away." Michael lowered his head and sobbed quietly. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The prisoner went straight to the top. Another kick at Michael. Fuck, but what I said was bullshit. I told you not to cry, but you still cried. Michael waved his hands desperately in fear and quickly pouted his lips, not daring to make any sound. The prisoner then returned to his bed contentedly and went to sleep. Another prisoner stood up directly. He had been holding his urine and wanted to wait until he woke up in the morning to pee, but he didn't expect to be interrupted by the idiot Michael. Stand up straight. He walked in front of Michael and saw that the urine bucket had fallen over and urine was spilling all over the floor, so he kicked Michael directly. You idiot, you even knocked over the piss bucket. What's the use of you? Michael whimpered and dared not say a word for fear of angering the prisoner. The prisoner had a gloomy look on his face. He simply untied his belt and released the water, pouring it all over Michael. You bastard. You make me unhappy even when I pee. Michael bit his lip, feeling so wronged. Diana, you bastard, if you don't come to save me, I will never forgive you in my life. Woo woo woo. At this time, Chi Wan has moved out of the Fong family villa and moved into the large flat in Jiangshan No. 1. She has already hired a lawyer to handle the divorce. She doesn't want to muddle along with that idiot Fong Xu anymore. Fong Jia doesn't want to see Fong Yuan anymore, so she moves in too. As for Fong Yuan, his ending is not particularly good. He asked Chi Wan for money, and Chi Wan told him directly that they were not related by blood and she would not give him a penny for living expenses. If you want money, ask Fong Xu. Fong Yuan was completely devastated. He had no status in the Fong family to begin with, and he still depended on Chi Wan for his living expenses every month. Now Chi Wan told him directly that they were not in a parent-child relationship, and she would no longer give him living expenses. At first, he gritted his teeth and asked Fong Xu for it with a smile, but Fong Xu refused to give it to him. Later, he had a fierce conflict with Fong Xu and beat him into the hospital. He was also beaten by the bodyguards at Fong Jia's villa. Then, he was kicked out of the Fong family. Those little hooligans who used to flatter Fong Yuan knew that Fong Yuan was not the young master of the Fong family, and began to make trouble for Fong Yuan, especially Huang Mao Xiaohe, who rushed back from other places overnight, ready to kill Fong Yuan. Now, Fong Yuan could only hide in the boys' dormitory of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School, but the situation was not optimistic. The classmates who had been bullied by him in the past were all ready to make a move, just waiting for someone to hit him first, and then the others would swarm over. Chapter 71. Fong Xu, this idiot, was deceived by his secretary Li Wei, but he foolishly refused to admit it. Jiangshan No. 1, Building 6, Room 603. Chi Wan listened to soft music while flipping through Johnson's photo albums from childhood to adulthood. Right in front of her were various certificates and trophies that Johnson had won since childhood. She got all of these from Lawyer Li. Johnson hasn't bought a house yet. So many things are kept at Lawyer Li's house. When Chi Wan came to ask for them, Lawyer Li was a little surprised. Chi Wan directly pointed out that she was Johnson's biological mother. Lawyer Li was completely dumbfounded. This plot was too ridiculous. Johnson had previously told Lawyer Li about his biological mother, and Lawyer Li thought it was a bit exaggerated. Unexpectedly, it was Chi Wan. This directly shattered Lawyer Li's 3 views. However, he only gave all of Johnson's personal belongings to Chi Wan. As for anything related to inheritance or finances, Lawyer Li did not give it to her. Chi Wan didn't want it either. Chi Wan looked through Johnson's growth album. A touch of joy appeared on her face, and sometimes there were tears in the corners of her eyes. She missed too much of Johnson's growth. But fortunately, Johnson grew up healthy and was trained to be so outstanding by He Zhizhou. 3 Good Students Award, Student Model Award, First Prize in City Youth Art, Mathematics Competition Award, English Proficiency Competition Award, First Prize in Musical Instrument Performance. Fong Jia picked up the Campus Basketball Championship trophy won by Johnson. These are all obtained by my younger brother. A smile appeared on Chi Wanchi's face. She could finally brag in front of her good sisters. Fong Jia couldn't describe her feelings. Before, she wasn't sure if Johnson was her biological brother, and she liked him a little. Now that she was sure he was her brother, she felt a little jealous of him. It's really unexpected. Gently put the trophy down. At this time, Chi Wanchi's phone suddenly rang. It was Fong Xu calling. Chi Wanchi didn't want to answer and blocked the call directly. She didn't want to say another word to the scumbag. Not a minute. A strange number called again. Chi Wanchi became a little impatient, picked up the phone, and clicked on the call. Hello. On the other end of the phone, Fong Xu frowned and growled at Chi Wanchi in a low voice with some complaints. Wanchi, what's wrong with you? How did you get Fangqiu in? Fangqiu is your brother-in-law? My biological brother. That beast. It would have been fine if Fong Xu hadn't mentioned Fangqiu, but this idiot insisted on mentioning it. Johnson ranked first in the city in the high school entrance examination and had a bright future, but he was sent to prison by this idiot. The more Chi Wanchi thought about it, the angrier she became. Don't you ask your brother what good things he has done? Fong Xu looked confused. What can he do? Chi Wanchi held the phone tightly. My son ranked first in the grade in the high school entrance exam and was supposed to shine, but that idiot Fong Xu sent him to prison and forced my son to work on a sewing machine for 3 years. Tell me, should I kill your brother? Fong Xu didn't know what Chi Wanchi was talking about. Wanchi, don't be fooled. I'll tell you the truth. I placed little Fong Yuan in the home of a childcare expert. I visit him every year. He is now well-behaved and has outstanding abilities. Chi Wanchi couldn't listen any longer and roared directly at Fong Xu. You're talking nonsense. Uncle Su has retrieved the surveillance video. Little Fong Yuan directly threw the couple into the trash can. If Zhizhou hadn't passed by, little Fong Yuan would have died a long time ago. Fong Xu bit his lip. He felt that brother Li Wei would not lie to him. After all, Li Wei was a simple and kind girl, and his brother's character would not be too bad. Is it possible that Uncle Su lied to you? Let me tell you this. The parenting expert is my secretary, Li Wei's biological brother. How could he do such a thing? Your secretary's brother? Chi Wanchi snorted coldly. Boss Fong, I've heard from your company's employees that you and your secretary, Li, have a special relationship. I always thought it was just a rumor, but today I got the real proof. Fong Xu suddenly became nervous. What are you talking about? She is just one of my secretaries. I have nothing to do with her. Having said that, I instantly lost my confidence. 18 years ago, at a cocktail party, he got drunk and was helped into a hotel room by Li Wei. Unexpectedly, they had sex. When Fong Xu woke up, Li Wei wiped her tears and said that Fong Xu raped her last night, but she didn't blame Fong Xu. This made Fong Xu very flustered. He didn't want to ruin his relationship with Chi Wanchi because of a woman. But fortunately, Li Wei was sensible. She told Fong Xu that she would not tell anyone. Fong Xu offered her 1 million yuan as compensation, but she refused. This made Fong Xu feel ashamed. Later, Li Wei told Fong Xu that she was pregnant and asked what to do with the child. Fong Xu's first reaction was to tell Li Wei to abort the child. Li Wei also nodded in agreement, but secretly protected the fetus. In fact, the child was not Fong Xu's, but her boyfriend's. However, her boyfriend was a gambler, so he wanted to find a reliable father for his child, and he chose Fong Xu. That night, in fact, nothing happened. As a result, Fong Xu foolishly thought that the baby in Li Wei's belly was his. Later, Fong Xu told Li Wei that Chi Wanchi was pregnant with a child with super male genes. Li Wei smiled and felt that the opportunity had come, so she discussed with her eldest brother and decided to use a trick to replace the prince with a cat. It just so happened that Chi Wanchi, Li Wei, and Li Wei's sister-in-law were due to give birth on the same day. The child born to Li Wei's sister-in-law was swapped with the child born to Chi Wanchi, so that Li Wei's nephew could replace little Fong Yuan to enjoy the good life in the Fong family. However, Fong Xu didn't even pretend and felt disgusted when he saw the son of Li Wei's sister-in-law. However, Li Wei's elder brother and sister-in-law didn't care. There were 3 children in the family, so it didn't matter if they sacrificed one. Besides, the third brother has no worries about food and clothing in the Fong family, so there is no need to worry too much. As for Li Wei's son, he will stay with Li Wei and be taken care of by a nanny. When Fong Xu goes to his eldest brother's house to look after the child, Fong Chen will stay at his eldest brother's house for 2 days. In this way, Li Wei and her elder brother were able to defraud 50,000 yuan in child support from Fong Xu every month. Sometimes, Fong Xu would give Fong Chen more than 10 million yuan on his birthday. Now Fong Chen has grown up, and that idiot Fong Xu actually wants to hand over the company to Fong Chen. Li Wei sometimes looked down on Fong Xu. How could such a stupid person become the second richest man in Jiangdu City? He was far behind He Zhizhou and Lu Changqing. Chi Wan she snorted coldly. Fong Xu, you have time to do a paternity test with your biological son. Don't be so stupid as to raise a child for someone else all day long. I get angry when I talk about this. Fong Xu, you treated me like a fool and asked me to raise a child for someone else. Just wait. I will make you lose everything, and I will send you and your secretary to hell. The angrier Chi Wan she became, the more she hung up the phone. He closed his eyes and started thinking about how to kill Fong Xu. Weekend. Johnson came to the Zizulin bar with his guitar on his back. He took a deep breath. He had planned not to come during this period to prepare for the college entrance examination. However, when he thought of Zheng He's embarrassment, he had to come. Zheng He was standing at the door of the bar. Seeing Johnson walking towards him, he quickly waved. Johnson, you are here. These two beauties have been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 72. Does Diana know who Man Man is now? Two beauties? Johnson was stunned. Bar owner Zheng He nodded. Yes, it was Miss Xue who booked the show. She is your fan. When you sang in Fengwang Ancient Town before, she was at almost every show. Johnson and Xue Anjing were not familiar with each other. So when the bar owner Zheng He said it was Miss Xue, Johnson did not think much about it. He just thought of it as a favor to Zheng He. Okay, brother Zheng. He nodded, put on his mask, and walked towards the center of the stage. The entire bar was reserved by Xue Anjing today. Therefore, there were not many customers, and the bartenders and waiters were all serving Xue Anjing and Diana. Not far from Xue Anjing sat a bodyguard, protecting her at any time. Therefore, Xue Anjing drank boldly. Ordered whiskey, rum, tequila, brandy. Diana looked at the table full of wine. I couldn't help but frown. Aren't you afraid of getting drunk? Xue Anjing smiled. If you're drunk, then so be it. Anyway, I have bodyguards and no one dares to pick up the body. Diana sighed. His eyes returned to the stage. Her expression was complicated. She wanted it to be full, but she also didn't want it to be full. If Man Man showed up, it would prove that he was a fool and was being manipulated by Michael. If he hadn't appeared, Michael would have felt lost. Even though I had given him a lot, I would always feel like I owed him something. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but sigh. Well, Xue Anjing heard Diana sigh. Lean your face over. What's wrong? Are you a little afraid to face the truth? Diana lowered her head. Soon, Xue Anjing saw Man Man walking towards the stage and then pushing Diana. It's full. Diana's eyes quickly shifted towards the stage, and he was completely stunned, really full of it. In the past, he always felt that Michael's body shape was not like Man Man's. Michael always followed her. After he saved her, he was retaliated by those drunkards and suffered a serious car accident. After a year of recuperation in the hospital, my figure has become out of shape. Unexpectedly, Man Man's figure hasn't changed at all. This is impossible. Didn't Man Man get into a car accident? Xue Anjing saw Diana's surprised look and smiled sarcastically. Diana, did a dog eat your brain? Michael lied to you, and you still believed it. Damn it. You really need to go to the hospital. Diana smiled bitterly. She was so stupid to believe Michael's lies. Johnson walked to the center of the stage. He didn't have the habit of glancing at the audience, so naturally, he didn't notice Xue Anjing and Diana. He took out his guitar and tuned it gently. Just start playing. I have listened to it 100 times, and I never get tired of it. You sing from day to night, and you are always by my side. If the world is too dangerous, only music is the safest. Lovers always break up and get back together. Xue Anjing was once again attracted by Johnson's singing. Johnson infatuatedly. I had already started imagining a sweet romance with him in my mind. Suddenly, I came back to my senses from my trance. Turning his head, he looked at Diana. Diana, is it full? This? Diana stammered, her expression uglier than if she had eaten shit. His voice was made hoarse by Johnson poison. He got into a terrible car accident, and his body got out of shape. It's all a lie. Damn it, Michael. I'm gonna kill you. Diana clenched her fists. Keep your head down. And Jing, I was deceived by Michael. How dare that bastard admit that he was Man Man? Diana left Fengwang Ancient Town. She looked for Man Man everywhere. As a result, Advertisements looking for Man Man often appeared on TV stations, which made Michael's heart moved. Seeing that no one acknowledged him, he felt that this opportunity was a gift from God. He immediately ran to Diana's class and said that he was Man Man. Diana didn't believe it at first, but when she saw Michael was so determined, she gradually began to believe it. Later, Michael often fabricated stories about Johnson hurting him, so that Diana would gradually stand on his side. Shui Anjing smiled. Diana, to be honest, you know better than anyone whether Michael is lying or not. All the students in our school can see that Michael is lying. Don't you see it? Ah! Diana lowered her head. Shui Anjing sighed. You just feel that the love Johnson gives you is too cheap, and you are beginning to get tired of Johnson and want to find something new. Michael just happened to come out, and you convince yourself that it is full of Michael. Before Shui Anjing could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Diana. She clenched her fists. I never liked Michael. He wasn't good looking at all. He wasn't my type at all. I always liked Johnson. I was really deceived. I didn't believe it at first. That shitty music teacher insisted that she could prove that Michael was a singer in Fenghuang, ancient town. He was so lucky. Thinking of this, Diana bit her teeth until they were broken. She would never let that damn music teacher off easily. I must tear her into pieces. She actually conspired with Michael to deceive me. Immediately following, the guitar stopped playing. Johnson waited for 2 seconds. Shui Anjing didn't choose a song, so he started playing the next one. Let me look at you again, from south to north, as if you were blinded by the fifth ring road. Please tell me again. Regarding that day, the girl holding the box and the man wiping his sweat, I know that those summers, like youth, will never come back. The only thing that can replace the dream is reluctance. Shui Anjing glanced at Johnson, who was singing on the stage, then turned to look at Diana. I have asked the bar owner about his stage name. His nickname is Man Man, which means his grandmother hopes he will have a happy life. What? Diana's thoughts were instantly brought back to the 3rd year of junior high school. Under Michael's schemes, her relationship with Johnson had reached a freezing point. Johnson could no longer tolerate his girlfriend getting close to other boys and proposed a breakup. That moment, Diana suddenly became much more sober. Michael and Johnson, there is a huge gap. She didn't want to break up with Johnson, so she explained to him that Michael was her savior in Fenghuang, ancient town. Johnson pointed out directly that it was Johnson who saved her. The reason why Johnson never mentioned it was that he thought it was a trivial matter and there was no need to talk about it. Johnson also told Diana, Man Man is his nickname, which is basically his stage name. However, Diana didn't believe it. She thought Johnson said that on purpose because he was jealous of Michael. Afterwards, Johnson never mentioned the incident again because the two had broken up and there was no point in bringing it up again. Diana looked at Shui Anjing in horror. Chapter 73. Diana kneels on the ground and begs for forgiveness. Johnson kicks Diana violently, wishing he could kill her. You're not lying to me? Lie to you. Shui Anjing sneered. Lu Chongqing has been smart all his life, so how could he have such a stupid daughter? Her IQ is really unmatched. I will go up to the stage and ask Man Man now. Is Man Man his stage name? After saying that, he stood up from his seat and walked towards the stage. Johnson was singing intently when he was suddenly interrupted by Shui's quiet voice. Full. Johnson stopped playing the guitar and looked up at Shui Anjing. What's the matter? Diana was stunned when she heard Man Man's voice. This voice, isn't it Johnson's? No way. It must not be Johnson's. Shui Anjing turned her head and glanced at Diana. Is Man Man your stage name or your nickname? Johnson followed Shui Anjing's gaze and noticed Diana. He gave a bitter smile. He didn't expect that Diana and her bestie had booked the entire place. If that was the case, he would never come. Johnson withdrew his gaze and looked at Shui Anjing. Man Man is my nickname. My grandmother hopes that I will have a happy life, so she named me Man Man. Diana stood up immediately. Johnson, her eyes were fixed on Man Man on the stage, and their eyes met. Man Man's eyes were full of resentment. Shui Anjing took advantage of Johnson's inattention and ripped off the mask on his face. She and Diana were shocked at the same time. Johnson. Diana was shaking all over. Johnson, it was really Johnson. Johnson didn't lie to me. Michael, that bastard, he actually lied to me and treated me like a fool. Now, Diana completely broke down. He choked and cried. Shui Anjing bit her lip. Her expression was a bit complicated. Damn, it was all Diana's boyfriend Johnson, and Diana, this idiot, was still courting death. Johnson, why is it you? Johnson smiled. How could it not be me? Do you think it should be Michael? Shui Anjing shook his head. I never thought it was Michael. Diana quickly ran to the center of the stage, knelt in front of Johnson, and grabbed Johnson's hand, but was pushed away by Johnson. Diana sobbed. Johnson, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have distrusted you. It was that Michael, that beast, who deceived me. Johnson kicked Diana to the ground. You idiot, you were kicked out of the Liu family, and now you have no money. Do you believe what I said? What about before? Did you die before? Or are you reluctant to leave your sweetheart, Michael? The words darling were particularly painful to Diana. In fact, Michael was not good-looking at all, and it was not an exaggeration to describe him as obscene. Many classmates laughed at her for being associated with a green tea girl, and she felt very uncomfortable. Now Johnson said Michael was her sweetheart, which made her feel uncomfortable. Johnson, listen to me. I was completely deceived by Michael. I thought he was my savior, so Diana climbed to her feet and bit her lip. Johnson, can you give me another chance? I will prove to you that I will treat you well with all my heart. Oh. Johnson kicked Diana away. Diana fiercely. Diana, I will make you pay with your life. You will go to hell with Michael and his sister. After saying that, he turned and left. Zheng He, who was standing not far away, was stunned. It turned out that the three of them knew each other. Diana started to cry. Shui Anjing tried to comfort Diana. Diana, stop crying. Johnson was just speaking in anger. Don't take it seriously. Shui Anjing herself didn't believe what he said. He indirectly killed someone's grandmother and sent Johnson to prison. This was a deep blood feud. Johnson left the bar, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. If he hadn't fulfilled his grandmother's last wish first, he would have killed Diana and Michael to pay for his grandmother's life. He took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and then left the bar slowly. From now on, Johnson will not come to this bar again. Fong Group, chairman's office. Fong Xu was busy and exhausted. In the past, subcontractors and banks would delay payment of project funds as much as possible for the sake of Chi Tongwei's face, and Fong Xu could repay the bank loan whenever he wanted. Now, Chi Wanchi divorced him, and everything Chi Wanchi had given him was taken back by Chi Wanchi. Even the low-priced land that was about to be acquired from Jin Mao was regretted by Jin Mao Group when the contract was signed yesterday, and the group asked Fong Group to buy it at the market price. Fong Xu slumped back in his chair. It's over. It's all over now. Sudden, there was a knock on the door. Mr. Fong. When Mr. Fong heard Li Wei's voice, he quickly straightened his clothes and adjusted his expression. Come in. Li Wei walked in from the office in a lady's suit, holding a cup of coffee. Although she was already in her 40s, she still powdered her face desperately. Placed the coffee on the table with square pillars. Mr. Fong, please have some coffee. Fong Xu was in no mood to drink coffee, as his company could go bankrupt at any time. Chi Wanchi was divorcing him again and wanted to take half of his property. I'm in no mood to drink coffee. The things going on at the company make me so irritated every day. Li Wei heard from a colleague that Chi Wanchi wanted to divorce him, but she didn't know that Chi Wanchi had already discovered that Fong Yuan was not his child. Now is the critical moment for Fong Chen to inherit the Fong Group, and no chaos can be allowed. Say something nice quickly. Boss Fong, sister-in-law, is probably angry because you don't care about Fong Yuan. Otherwise, you can give Fong Yuan several million every month. Maybe sister-in-law will be happy and ask Director Chi to support you. Fong Xu got angry when he heard Li Wei mention Fong Yuan. Complained quietly. Your brother and sister-in-law have such good personalities. How could they give birth to a child as violent as Fong Yuan? Li Wei looked a little embarrassed. Her elder brother had a bad temper and beat his wife all the time. But Fong Xu was a rich boss, so he restrained himself a lot. Fong Yuan's brother and sister. One is a school bully and the other is a gangster. They are not good people. Fong Yuan's elder brother finished elementary school and stopped studying and became a drifter in society. His elder sister is the same. Li Wei put away her embarrassment and smiled. This is all my sister-in-law's fault. She spoiled Fong Yuan. Look at Fong Chen. He is such a good character that he has already received an admission letter from Oxford University in the UK. After spending 5 million yuan to find an agent and get a copy of the answers to the entrance exam paper, Fong Chen scored 98 points. Next second, Li Wei's cell phone rang. It was Fong Chen calling. Li Wei smiled and pointed at her cell phone. Look, Fong Chen called? Pick it up quickly. Hello. On the other end of the phone, Fong Chen said anxiously. Mom, it's over? The UK doubted the true level of Chinese students, so they made A/B test. The agent repeatedly assured me that there was no problem. But in the end, I only got 2 points. What? Li Wei was shocked. She had planned to go to England to accompany her child to study after this summer vacation. Why only 2 points? Chapter 74. Kelly moved the table next to Johnson again. Fong Chen hesitated. I can't read English? What? Li Wei was immediately numb. Her expression was a little awkward, and she didn't dare to look at Qianju. She took her phone and left the chairman's office and walked to a deserted place. Only then dared to speak. You've been studying in an international school since you were a child, but you can't even understand English. Are you kidding me? Fong Chen still felt aggrieved. Can you blame me for this? You know these international schools don't teach anything, and they just use gibberish English to introduce the customs and culture of the UK all day long. How can I understand that? Besides, the principal of the international school has said that there are 5 million universities in the UK to choose from. Who would have thought that Huaxiao International School would lose its credibility? At first, it only refused to accept international students from the mainland and Macau, and now it even refuses to accept students from the UK. Li Wei closed her eyes and created a personality for Fong Xu that Fong Chen was a top student. She also asked Fong Chen to come to Fong Group for an internship before going abroad. Unexpectedly, everyone's personality collapsed in the blink of an eye. Fong Chen, you are so stupid. Others have been in international schools for 12 years and can communicate in English without any obstacles, but you still can't understand. Fong Chen quickly argued. I'm not the only one who failed the exam this time. Those students who were good at English didn't get into British universities. You. Li Wei was speechless for a moment. If you don't compare yourself with the good, what are you going to compare yourself with? Fong Chen was a little discouraged and said unhappily, I don't care. Since I can't go abroad, then find a way to let me study for a bachelor's degree. I don't want to study for a junior college. Li Wei's scalp tingled. This problem was too tricky. Just about to speak, Fong Xu walked over. What's wrong? Who are you calling? Why are you arguing? Li Wei quickly put away her angry expression and showed a sweet smile. Mr. Fong, it was Fong Chen who called me. His application for admission was not approved by Oxford University. What? Fong Xu frowned. Why was it not approved? That. Li Wei yazitata. Now many countries have imposed a technological blockade on China, so the political review of Chinese students is relatively strict, especially since Fong Chen's grandfather Chi Tongwei is a director. It is even more difficult to pass the review in this situation. Fong Xu did not doubt whether Li Wei's words were false, but showed an angry expression. There are so many problems in such a bird country. Fong Chen is going to learn management, not technology. Is it necessary to be so strict? When Li Wei heard Fong Xu say this, she couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed that this idiot didn't have any brains. Mr. Fong, since Fong Chen can't go abroad, why don't you let him stay in China to take the college entrance examination? He has a good foundation. I remember that you have a personal relationship with the principal of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School. Otherwise, you can talk to him and let him study at Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School. She is now getting Fong Chen into Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School. When the time comes, she will think of a way to see if she can spend some money to get him into a second-tier university or send him to a university in Malaysia. Fong Xu frowned. He and the principal of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School didn't have much personal contact, but Fong's real estate projects would all introduce junior high schools under the Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School education group. All in all, the two of them only have an exchange of interests. Thought for a moment. Okay, I'll call the principal of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School now. The next day, Johnson returned to the classroom, and Kelly moved her desk next to Johnson. Now many girls were discussing privately how to pursue Johnson, which made Kelly feel a strong sense of crisis. I can't just sit there and wait for death. Move the table directly next to Johnson. Johnson was stunned for 2 seconds. Then he didn't take it seriously. He sat down in his seat and started reading. Although he ranked first in the grade in the first mock exam, it was not the college entrance examination after all, so he couldn't take it lightly. Johnson put his bag away and took out a book from the drawer. Haven't turned a few pages yet. Kelly handed the bun to Johnson. I made this myself, give it a try. Johnson's expression slowed down for a moment, and he felt warm in his heart. No girl had ever been so nice to him before. He had pursued Diana without asking for anything in return. It was said on the internet that anything nice a girl did to a boy was a beautiful myth to him. He turned his head and glanced at Kelly. Thank you. Took the bun from Kelly's hand and put it in the drawer. Kelly smiled. Eat it quickly. It won't taste good if it's cold. Johnson nodded, took out the bun, took a bite, and tasted pretty good. Just at this moment, the head teacher Li Hai walked in with Fong Chen. Students, please be quiet. Everyone looked at Fong Chen and started talking. Is there another new student transferring here? He looks quite Western, but not as handsome as Johnson. Compared to Johnson, it's far behind. I still like Johnson. The head teacher, Lee Hai, picked up the blackboard eraser and knocked on the desk. Everyone, please be quiet. Let me introduce you. This is Fong Chen, an international student. He has been admitted to Oxford University. However, due to the foreign economic blockade against China, he was rejected by Oxford University. This is what Fong Xu specifically told Lee Hai to say. I'm afraid that the students of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School don't know how awesome Fong Chen is. The whole class discussed in low voices. Can't you study at a foreign university if you have money? That was in the past. I recently read in the news that Huaxiao International School has gone bankrupt. Even if you have money, you may not be able to study in the UK. Many people fail the entrance exam. Oh, really? Shit. I guess that's why he was expelled from Oxford University. When Lee Hai heard his classmates' discussions, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, but he quickly regained his composure. He turned his head and looked at Fong Chen. Please introduce yourself to the university. Fong Chen nodded at Lee Hai and turned to look at his classmates. Hello, classmates. I'm an international student from an international school. My name is Fong Chen. Nice to meet you all. There was a burst of warm applause from the audience. When Fong Chen's eyes were scanning just now, they happened to scan Kelly, which made him feel bright. This girl is much prettier than the girls in international schools. Whether in terms of figure or appearance, she would definitely be the most beautiful girl among all the school beauties in an international school. I couldn't help but swallow my saliva. Lee Hai originally wanted to arrange Fong Chen to sit next to Johnson, but when he saw Kelly was already sitting next to Johnson, he had to turn his attention to Yu Yue's deskmate. Student Fong Chen, please sit next to Yu Yue. Fong Chen looked in the direction of Lee Hai's finger and found that Yu Yue was also very beautiful. He always thought that international schools were places where beautiful girls were frequently found, but he didn't expect that the parallel classes of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School also had hidden talents. Chapter 75, Diana swears to kill Michael. But having said that, students in international schools do not have much academic pressure. Every day, they only learn what British primary and secondary school students learn, so they are happy both physically and mentally, and their growth hormone is not suppressed. Basically, the figure has not changed. Only a small number of people prefer radicals. Therefore, girls in international schools are generally better looking than girls in Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School. Fong Chen walked to Yu Yue's side with his school bag on his back, but there was a table missing. He turned his head and glanced at Lee Hai. Teacher, this. Just as Lee Hai was about to speak, the monitor and 3 other boys came in from outside the classroom and placed them in front of Fong Chen. Fong Chen didn't even say thank you and just sat down. After Lee Hai settled Fong Chen, he walked in front of Johnson, glanced at Kelly, and turned to look at Johnson. Johnson, your grades are good enough for the experimental class. You can enroll in the experimental class. There is no need to stay in the parallel class to study. Johnson looked up at Lee Hai. Teacher, I don't want to go to the experimental class. I'm used to it. If I go there, I won't be used to it and it will affect my academic performance. Lee Hai raised the corner of his mouth slightly. If Johnson didn't go to the experimental class, he would definitely be the one who benefited. With Johnson's grades, there is no doubt that he will be admitted to Peking University or Tsinghua University. If Johnson is admitted to Peking University or Tsinghua University, I can get at least a bonus of 500,000 yuan. If Johnson goes to the experimental class, the 500,000 yuan bonus will not mean anything to me. Put away the smile. Johnson, it will be good for you to go to the experimental class. After all, the experimental class is for top students. You will be even more powerful if you go there. Moreover, the teachers in the experimental class will share some predicted questions for the college entrance examination. Johnson shook his head. What he hated most was the academic bully. In addition, the people who set the questions now were not teachers from Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School, so the questions would definitely be inaccurate. If the people who set the questions for the college entrance examination were teachers from Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School in previous years, then it would make a lot of sense to go to the experimental class. No, teacher, you don't have to persuade me. I won't go. Lee Hai took a deep breath. He definitely hoped that Johnson would stay in the parallel class. Since Johnson had made up his mind, and he also wanted him to stay, then forget it, and he would not persuade him to leave. Okay, I'll talk to the principal then. There was a pause. He turned around and looked at all the classmates. Tomorrow is the parents' meeting. I have already notified your parents in the class group. When the time comes, you can go back and tell them that this is our last parents' meeting. The students were dejected. The college entrance examination would be held in a few dozen days, and they had to hold a parent-teacher meeting. Lehigh turned his head and looked at Johnson with a complicated expression. Before in the principal's office, he thought Chi Wan was Johnson's mother, but he didn't expect Chi Wan to say that she was Fong Yuan's mother. However, within 2 or 3 days, Chi Wan went to his office again, saying that she was Johnson's mother, and joined the parent committee and changed her personal nickname in the group to Johnson's mother. Suddenly, I remembered and turned around to look at all my classmates again. Oh, classmates, I forgot to tell you that Johnson got first place in the grade this time. This afternoon, after the 4th class, Johnson's mother invited all the students to have dinner at the Zixahui restaurant in Xingfuli. You can order whatever you want. There was warm applause from the audience. Oh my God, that's awesome. Mother Johnson is domineering. This is the most generous thing the parents in the PDA have ever done. The last time, it was Yixin's mother who treated everyone to tomahawk steak. Every time students have a dinner together, the parents on the Parent-Teacher Association share the cost. This time, it was Johnson's mother who paid for all the students to have dinner alone. Johnson frowned and turned to look at Lehigh. My mother? Lehigh nodded. Your mother. Kelly looked at Lehigh and then at Johnson. Why did he feel that when Lehigh scolded Johnson, it was like Zhang Xiaohua calling Yang Jigang his grandson? I always feel that Zhang Xiaohua is scolding Yang Jigang, but I can't find any fault with him. Johnson frowned and was about to ask Lehigh, who is my mother? Lehigh was called out by the head teacher who passed by. Johnson thought for a moment, then decided not to ask. He put the book aside and continued reading. Then the class bell rang. The math teacher walked in from outside the classroom. All her attention is now on Johnson. If Johnson gets full marks in math in this college entrance examination, she can brag about it for the rest of her life. Soon, the class is over. Johnson stretched and turned his head to look out the window. Who was his biological mother? Could it be the woman in the principal's office? Suddenly, the sound of a table falling startled Johnson. Johnson was about to turn his head. Yu Youwei's voice rang out. Kelly, why did you move out? You made me sit with a jerk. Kelly looked confused. What's wrong? The more Yu Youwei thought about it, the more unhappy she became. That guy kept staring at me during class, like he had never seen a woman before. I could see him glancing at me out of the corner of my eye. Thinking of this, Yu Youwei clenched her fists. She also glanced at Johnson from the corner of her eyes, but Johnson seemed to have never looked at her carelessly. Then, speak slowly. I'll sit next to it. This? Kelly felt a little unhappy. He felt a little sympathetic towards Yu Youwei's situation just now, but now he suddenly felt that Yu Youwei seemed to be deliberately finding an excuse to move in. That's not good. If you move here, you'll attract the teacher's attention. Yu Youwei looked indifferent. What's the big deal? The college entrance exam is only 30 days away. Many students in my class don't attend classes, and the teacher doesn't care. Who cares if I sit anywhere? Kelly looked embarrassed. He turned his head to look at Johnson, but found that he didn't say anything, so he didn't know what to say. Johnson was too lazy to say that he didn't know girls very well, but he felt that it was not good for a boy to interrupt him. At noon, on the 3rd floor of the cafeteria, Johnson ordered a bowl of Xinjiang shredded pork rice and found a seat to sit down. Before he had taken 2 bites, Diana came over. Johnson lost his appetite instantly and looked up at Diana. Diana, what are you doing here? Diana bit her lip lightly, hesitating for a long time before she spoke. Johnson, I'm sorry. I should have believed you. It was you who convinced me. But I foolishly believed Michael, that big liar. Don't worry, I will not let Michael live. I will send him to hell. As she spoke, Diana clenched her fists. Johnson took a deep breath. Diana, intently. Diana, do you think I will forgive you if you kill Michael? Grandma died because of your stupid behavior. You will go to hell with Michael. Johnson speaks with great emphasis. Diana was startled. Johnson said with a fierce look in his eyes. Diana, I will not let you, Michael, and Amanda go. I will make all 3 of you go to be buried with Grandma. Chapter 76. Fong Chen was too disgusting. Johnson couldn't help it and beat him up. Diana was startled and took a few steps back. Johnson yelled at Diana. Oh. Diana turned away disappointed. Johnson lost his appetite instantly. Diana ruined his good mood for the whole day. Just as he was about to get up and leave, he suddenly felt that it would be a pity not to eat the Xinjiang shredded pork rice that he had spent money on. Sat down again and took 2 bites. Just at this moment, Kelly and Yu Youwei came over with the food. They didn't come over because they saw Diana just now. They came over only after Diana walked away. Johnson was a little surprised. Usually, the 2 of them would go around looking for shops near the school. So why did they suddenly come to the school cafeteria to eat? Don't you two dislike the food in the cafeteria? The two looked at each other at the same time, then turned to look at Johnson with an awkward smile. Nothing. I'm about to graduate, and I haven't come to the third floor of the cafeteria to eat yet. Teachers usually eat on the third floor of the cafeteria. I heard the food tastes good, so we came over to try it. Just now, the two of them were planning to go out for dinner, but they saw Diana walking hurriedly towards the cafeteria. It goes without saying that he must be going to find Johnson. So, the two of them came over to watch the fun. Johnson ignored the two of them and started eating Xinjiang shredded pork rice. The taste was indeed much better than the food on the first and second floors, but it was still far from the taste of the food prepared in star-rated hotels. It seems that I should ride my bike back to the hotel to eat lunch from now on. Kelly and Yuyue looked at each other and started eating. At this time, the atmosphere in the air was particularly quiet. Occasionally, there were sounds of chairs being moved and plates colliding. Fong Chen suddenly sat next to Kelly and smiled, which he thought was very handsome. Hello. Completely ignored Johnson and only had eyes for Kelly and Yuyue. Kelly was startled by Fong Chen's behavior and leaned towards Yuyue. She smiled awkwardly and ignored Fong Chen and continued eating. Mainly, she doesn't like strangers greeting her suddenly, which makes her feel insecure. Johnson glanced at Fong Chen and continued to eat. I feel like this guy is mentally ill. The girl doesn't even know you, but you are leaning against her in a familiar manner. Fong Chen feels that he is an international student and is more upscale and classy than the students of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School, so he feels very superior. He felt that Kelly and Yu Yue should admire him. Taking the initiative to approach them is the greatest gift I can give them. Fong Chen was very upset when he saw that Kelly and Yu Yue ignored him and treated him as heir. I am so outstanding. You should like me. What's the point of ignoring me? He took the initiative to break the silence. The food in the cafeteria of Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School is really bad. The food in our international school cafeteria is better. Besides, we eat white people's food, which is the most delicious in the world. Johnson snorted coldly. A poor guy worshipped white people after eating 2 bites of their food. I wouldn't even eat that kind of pig food. Kelly had never eaten steak before, so he salivated when he saw it. But after eating it, he felt it was just SOSO. In fact, he even felt a little nauseous if he ate too much. Chinese food culture is extensive and profound, while white people's rice is just the cooking that primitive people have just mastered. Kelly ignored Fong Chen and continued eating his meal. Fong Chen's face showed a hint of embarrassment again. He bit his lip and smiled. Kelly must have no idea that his family was rich, so he ignored him. Then he started bragging. I'm telling you too, don't tell anyone. My dad is the second richest man in Jiangdu, Fong Xu. After saying this, Fong Chen felt extremely satisfied. He had actually told many people that his father was Fong Xu. In the international school, he almost always said to his classmates, I'm telling you too, don't tell anyone that my dad is the second richest man in Jiangdu, Fong Xu. Many classmates think he is very low and don't even want to say a word to him. After all, those who study in international schools come from wealthy families. They all look at you. So who cares who your father is? Now that Fong Chen has come to Jiangdu No. 2 Middle School, he has finally found a sense of superiority and must show off himself. However, just like before, Kelly and Yu Yue ignored him. He looked embarrassed and had to lie down to eat. He took 2 bites and it tasted so bad that he spat it out. Oh my god, this is for feeding pigs. During this period, the Fong group was targeted by Chi Wan and its funding chain was cut. Fong Xu borrowed money everywhere, so naturally he had no extra money to give to Fong Chen. In the past, Fong Chen and Li Wei had already relied on Fong Xu, and they had endless money every day, and they spent it extravagantly all day long, so they had no savings. Now the Fong group is about to go bankrupt. Fong Xu also stopped transferring money to Fong Chen's bank. The main reason was that Li Wei created a frugal image for Fong Chen in front of Fong Xu all day long. Every time he told Fong Xu, Fong Chen did not spend his money indiscriminately, but used his money for investment and earned tens of millions for himself. So, when Fong Xu encountered difficulties, he immediately asked the finance department to stop sending money to Fong Chen. Fong Chen didn't even have 100 yuan on him, so he ate in the cafeteria. In the past, no matter how delicious the food in the cafeteria was, he would have visited all the restaurants around. Fong Chen turned his head and watched Kelly and Yu Yue eating with gusto. A look of curiosity. Don't you two think it tastes bad? Kelly ignored him, but Yu Yue found Fong Chen a bit annoying. While eating, there was an idiot chattering nonstop next to him. Yu Yue turned her head and looked at Fong Chen unhappily. Just as I was about to speak, I felt that talking to him was too low, so I closed my mouth again and continued eating. Fong Chen saw that Kelly and Yu Wei still ignored him, so he bit his lip. It seemed that he had to take the initiative to attract the girl's attention. Let me have a taste. As he said that, he snatched Kelly's food away and tasted a few bites with his chopsticks. It's delicious. Really delicious. Much better than my meals. Kelly was instantly unhappy and gritted his teeth. You are sick. You want to eat? Why don't you go buy it yourself? Why are you eating mine? Yu Wei frowned and yelled at Fong Chen. You are so disgusting. Fong Chen disagreed and showed his humiliating expression. I just wanted to taste it to see if it was delicious. What's the big deal? I just ate 2 mouthfuls of her rice. Why do you have to eat it like this? He simply returned the rice bowl to Kelly. It's not tasty. I'm giving it back to you. It's far inferior to the food in international schools. Kelly felt uncomfortable. This was the second time she felt disgusted with a boy. The last time was Fong Yuan. She bit her lip. This bowl of rice is 25. You have to pay me back. Fong Chen was embarrassed. Damn, it's 25 yuan, so expensive. If it was some time ago, 25 yuan would be nothing, but now he only has 100 yuan in his pocket. TSK, I only ate 2 bites. Why are you charging me 25? Chapter 77. Fong Chen mistakenly recognized his mother. Chi Wan. She only had Johnson as her son. Damn it. Kelly punched Fong Chen in the face, but the force was too weak, so it was just a massage for Fong Chen. But this also angered Fong Chen. How dare you hit me, you stinky bitch. Standing up and about to swing his fist at Kelly, Johnson suddenly stood up and punched Fong Chen hard. Fong Chen instantly felt dizzy and fell to the ground. Kelly saw Fong Chen was about to hit him, so he quickly closed his eyes and stepped back, but he didn't expect that Fong Chen was knocked down by Johnson's punch the next second. Johnson walked in front of Fong Chen, put one foot directly on his head, and pressed Fong Chen's face tightly to the ground. Johnson's cold voice sounded. Apologize. Fong Chen gritted his teeth. Do you know who my father is? Johnson kicked Fong Chen hard in the face and then stepped on his face. Apologize. Fong Chen was so frightened that he bit his lip. Sorry. Johnson hates bastards like Fong Chen the most. He is the same character as Michael. Give Kelly the 25 bucks. Fong Chen bit his lip. He only had 100 yuan in his pocket. Li Wei had just told him to be frugal. She was trying to find a way to ask Fong Xu for money. Gritted his teeth. I just took 1 bite. Johnson was getting impatient and kicked Fong Chen in the face a few more times. Fong Chen was beaten black and blue, and he sobbed softly. I'll take it. I'll take it. He took out $25 from his pocket. Johnson took the $25 and let go of his feet. Go away. Fong Chen bit his lip and left angrily. Johnson gave Kelly the $25. For you. Then there was a pause. I'll buy you another one. Kelly was about to speak. No, I'm full. Johnson had already walked to the window and ordered a plate of stir-fried pork intestines over rice. Yu Wei felt a little unhappy and suddenly felt that her pepper-fried pork over rice was not as delicious. Fong Chen left the cafeteria with a face full of grievance. 25 yuan was also robbed. Are the students of Jiangdu No. 2 middle school bandits? He walked to a deserted place, feeling more and more aggrieved the more he thought about it. He took out his cell phone from his pocket, stared at it for a long time, and finally put it away. Fong Xu was very busy recently, so he didn't want to disturb him because of such a trivial matter. He bit his lip, stood up, and left. Johnson finished his meal. He went back to the classroom to rest. He lay on the table, closed his eyes, and gathered his energy for the afternoon study. At this time, some students had already given up, went home for lunch, and did not come in the afternoon. Suddenly, I smelled a scent of perfume. Johnson thought it was Diana again. This piece of shit was so annoying. She followed him wherever he went. He raised his head and was about to yell, Diana, are you annoying? However, as soon as the words came to his lips, he swallowed them back. Kelly frowned. You were perfume? Kelly could speak. Yu Wei took the lead. At the school gate, the perfume shop was having a buy one, get one free promotion. You can buy 2 bottles of perfume for 10 yuan, 1 for me and 1 for Kelly. The merchant said that this perfume was a girl's body odor, with a light scent. As a result, when Kelly and Yu Wei sprinkled a little on their sleeves, the scent was very strong, not a light fragrance at all. Fortunately, many girls bought it and sprayed it, so they were not embarrassed. However, they would definitely be scolded by the teacher in class later. Kelly blinked. Is it too fragrant? Johnson nodded. Somewhat. To be honest, he was a little excited. But soon, Johnson suppressed the evil thoughts in his heart and continued to lie down and read. Yue pushed Kelly, and the two girls talked in a low voice. Johnson seemed to blush. Afternoon. The last class is over. The head teacher walked into the classroom and organized the students to have dinner at the Zingfuli Zixahui restaurant. The students' parents had already arrived at the Zingfuli Zixahui restaurant early. Chi Wan also invited all the parents to dinner in the home committee. She was in a very happy mood and was willing to spend any amount of money. Soon, all the students in the parallel class went into the Zixahui restaurant in Zingfuli. Johnson didn't come. He followed the team halfway and then found an excuse to slip away. He found it hard to accept the fact that he suddenly had a mother and wanted to wait until after the college entrance examination before discussing this matter. So, turn around and leave. A table can seat 10 people, so Chi Wan set up 11 tables. Parents sat together, students sat together, and teachers from parallel classes sat together. The parents already knew that Johnson ranked first in the grade. I was already envious and jealous. And now seeing Chi Wan, who looked so well maintained and looked like a female college graduate, I felt even more uncomfortable. Alas, if my son also studied and wanted to be like his son, I would be more beautiful than her. Male parents are. To keep her mother looking so young, it must have taken a lot of physical effort from her father. I wonder if they still have sex now that they are old. As soon as he said it, he suddenly realized something was wrong, and everyone around him was whispering and laughing at his parents. When the classmates saw Chi Wan, they started talking about it. Oh my God, Johnson's mother is in great shape. I thought she was Johnson's sister at first. Her mother must have been a great beauty when she was young. No wonder Johnson is so handsome. Fong Chen recognized Chi Wan at a glance. He had seen Chi Wan several times. In the past, Li Wei showed him a photo of Chi Wan and told him that outside, Chi Wan was his mother. Although he knew that Li Wei was his biological mother, he heard his classmates talking about Chi Wan. Suddenly, a sense of pride arose again. After all, Li Wei is too old. She is in her 40s, but looks like a person in her 50s. She is different from Chi Wan, who is in her 40s, but looks like a 22-year-old college girl who just graduated and dresses youthfully and beautifully. Fong Chen turned his head to look at the classmates around him and said very proudly, "I'm sorry to shock you all, but he's my mother." The classmates were stunned at first, and then began to laugh sarcastically. "Fuck, you recognize the wrong mother? I'm Johnson's mother. Don't you see the banner? Congratulations to Johnson for getting first place in the grade. It doesn't say congratulations. By the way, what's your name? I almost forgot. His name is Fong Chen." "Oh, Fong Chen." There's no sign saying congratulations to Fong Chen for getting first place in the grade. Fong Chen's face looked unhappy, and he bit his lip. "He is my mother? Her husband is Fong Xu, and Fong Xu is my father." The students laughed even louder. "Totally. How do you look like her?" If the full score for appearance is 100, Johnson and Johnson's mother can get 100 points, but your appearance is 56 points, which is not even qualified. "You!" Fong Chen's face turned red with anger. Gritted his teeth. "I'm going to prove to you right now that she is my mother." Chapter 78, He Zhizhou is not dead. He is coming back soon. After saying that, Fong Chen stood up and walked towards Chi Wan. He had a winter smile on his face. It was as if he was about to prove to all the classmates that Chi Wan was his mother. He walked in front of Chi Wan. "Mom!" Chi Wan frowned. He had no impression of the young man in front of him. He pondered for a moment and wondered if the young man in front of him was mentally ill. "Did you recognize the wrong person?" Fong Chen smiled and explained slowly. "Mom, did I recognize the wrong person? I am your biological son. 17 years ago, Dad thought I had super male genes and would commit crimes in this life. So he sent me to Uncle Li's house to be raised. Dad should have told you." Fong Chen had heard from Li Wei that Chi Wan already knew that Fong Yuan was not her son, and Fong Yuan was kicked out of the Fong family. However, like Li Wei, he only listened to half of what Fong Xu said. Fong Xu did not tell Li Wei that Chi Wan said Fong Chen was not her son and she had found her own son. Because Fong Xu always felt that Li Wei had not lied to him. Fong Chen was his son and also Chi Wan's son. Therefore, Fong Xu did not say the second half of the sentence, but only the first half. Fong Yuan was kicked out of the Fong family and was taken back by Li Wei's eldest brother. Chi Wan's face turned gloomy. Frowned. "Are you Fong Chen?" Fong Chen nodded desperately with a smug smile on his face. "Yes, Mom. I am Fong Chen, your biological son, the little Fong Yuan who crawled out of your belly." Chi Wan slapped Fong Chen in the face. So it was you and your beastly mother who almost killed my son, you bastard. Fong Chen covered his face, looking confused. The students around were shocked at first, and then began to whisper and discuss. Oh my God, why did they start a fight? Fong Chen is such a jerk, and he recognized the wrong mother. Johnson's mother must be uncomfortable. It's really disgusting. To be honest, I can't stand Fong Chen either. Fong Chen sobbed softly, as if he had suffered a great injustice. Mom, I really am your biological son. If you don't believe me, ask Dad. He knows the whole truth. Chi Wan gritted her teeth. Only that idiot Fong Xu would want to believe other people's lies. Do you think I am him? Would I easily believe his lies? He turned and looked at the bodyguard beside him. Hold him down for me. After dinner, I will take him to the hospital for a paternity test. The bodyguard nodded. Yes. After saying that, he walked towards Fong Chen. Fong Chen panicked instantly, biting his lips gently. He had known for a long time that he was Li Wei's son, not Chi Wan's son. If Chi Wan took him to the hospital for a paternity test, he would be exposed. Turn around. Quickly fled the restaurant. The bodyguard saw Fong Chen running away and turned to look at Chi Wan. Boss Chi, he escaped? Chi Wan frowned and looked around. There were parents and students around. There was no need to spoil everyone's enjoyment of the meal. Never mind. The bodyguard then turned around and returned to his seat. Chi Wan took a deep breath. With so many eyes staring at her, she could only briefly explain the whole story. After all, it was much better for her to make fun of herself first than to have others spread rumors about her. I'm sorry to make you laugh. This man is a liar. He often came to my husband's company and said he was my husband's son, my husband's illegitimate child. Later, my husband couldn't explain it to me clearly, so I chose to divorce him. After all, Johnson is older now, and I don't want to settle for it anymore. It instantly resonated with the female parents. Fuck, scumbag, divorce is the right thing to do. The children are grown up. Who is afraid of whom? If I were you, I would not divorce you either. This young man is so shameless. He is an illegitimate child, but he has the nerve to call the original wife his mother. This is too shameless. How disgusting. Sikumbad, bah. Half of the people felt sorry for Chi Wan. Just now, I was jealous of Chi Wan for having such a good son, but I didn't expect that her marriage was unhappy. And let the parents feel sorry for her. The male parent couldn't say anything either. It was really difficult to speak about such things. The teachers didn't say much. It was difficult for a judge to judge family affairs. It was not convenient for them to say anything about this matter. Li Hai smiled and turned to look at Chi Wan. Mother Johnson, don't be angry. After all, life is full of regrets. Although the marriage is not particularly happy, Li Hai smiled awkwardly, not knowing what to say. He quickly turned to Johnson's academic performance. But Johnson's academic performance has not disappointed you. As long as he keeps up this, he will definitely have no problem getting into Peking University or Tsinghua University. Chi Wan turned her head and looked at Li Hai with a smile. Really? Li Hai nodded. The food arrived just in time. Chi Wan didn't care about Fong Xu, the scumbag. If he Zhizhou hadn't died, she could have tried to start a new family with him. After all, he Zhizhou had never married in order to raise him, so she could only repay him with her body. Chi Wan turned her head and looked at the parents. The food is here, let's eat first. She glanced at the crowd, but didn't see Johnson. However, that was within her expectations. Johnson definitely wouldn't come. Johnson had just returned to the hotel and had just opened the door when a hurried phone call rang. Johnson frowned and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. He knew without guessing that it was Diana calling. Just hung up. After a while, the cell phone rang again. Johnson frowned and picked up the phone. Diana, you're not done. The person on the other end of the phone was stunned for a moment, then quickly explained. Master He, I'm not Diana. I'm the bank manager of Standard Chartered Bank. Johnson was stunned for a second. His black card didn't seem to be from Standard Chartered Bank. He frowned, wondering if it was to trick him into applying for a credit card or buying some financial products. I'm sorry, I'm not a leak and I don't play stocks. Just about to hang up the phone. The bank manager hurried to explain. Mr. He, you misunderstood. Mr. He opened a subcard for you and bound it to his Supreme Gold card. You need to come to the bank in person tomorrow to activate and claim it. What? Johnson's eyes widened, a little bit unable to believe his ears. Mr. He? My dad? He Zhizhou. The bank manager nodded. Yes, I do. Johnson smiled a little excitedly, but he soon remembered what Lawyerly said. Many people are concerned about his hundreds of billions of wealth. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but frown. My dad has been missing for 10 years, and his whereabouts are unknown. You told me that my dad got me a subcard that is linked to his Supreme Gold card? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old kid? You can fool me so easily. The bank manager looked embarrassed. Mr. He, I really didn't lie to you. It was really Mr. He who opened the subcard for you, but he is not convenient right now. Oh, I almost forgot, Mr. He, please wait a moment. Chapter 79. The white-haired old man really cheated He Zizhou into staying with him for 10 years. Johnson frowned. What have you done?